Good afternoon, chat, and hello everyone. Hopefully I am somewhat audible to everyone. And, oh look, we've got the chattel people here. Oh wow, I've missed all of you so much. I haven't done anything on YouTube for like fucking ages. It's great. Live chat is enabled. We're not doing any of that top chat bullshit. What have we got going on here, chat? We've got all the mentions and shit. Someone wants me to pause their neg hole. I think going through this study you may regret that request a little bit later. It might be a problem for you. Some asshut surgeon fanboys have started calling me Autistic Research Man. Reminds me of Kraut calling Ryan Falk Alt-Right Science Man. It's so easy to make them feel threatened. Well, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, it's pretty funny. It's like reading things before you talk about them makes them autistic, as opposed to just reading things and just going, well, that's just obviously stupid. that doesn't make you autistic. You know, it's weird, isn't it? You know, sometimes reading things and chuckling at them, not autistic. Reading things and talking about them, autistic. It makes perfect sense. Someone is positively ecstatic. Make more videos, bitch, comes from the chat. I know, chat, I am sorry, I have let you down. I have been away for several weeks doing more important things, but I will make content again one day, maybe, potentially. Amuse me, senpai. I will attempt to. I am sorry, but let's make it happen. Let's amuse the chat, then. Someone has their toothbrush at the ready. Is that an electric toothbrush, chat? Because if it isn't, then you're gonna have to put in a lot more work here. You need to get an electric toothbrush. That's where it's at. My sister wants to fuck you. Well, thanks for that. Tell them I'm flattered, but I do not swing that way, because, I mean, I'm a deer. Also, bro, I've got some bad news for you. I think your sister might be a furry, so you should probably get on that, because that could be a problem later on. Did I see someone's porn stash? Yes, I did, and I really wish that I didn't. Yeah. Just whatever, you just have to deal with it. Some people have weird fetishes for which they need to be gassed and then burned, and you will need two bolters for that heresy, and just leave it at that, because otherwise that would be a whole other thing in itself. So let's crack on with what we've actually got going on here today. So this is from the Journal of Porn Studies. This is just a little thing that I was curious to read up on. As we can see here, it is a legit thing from the Journal of Porn Studies. Breeding futures, masculinity, and the ethics of communion in Treasure Island media's viral loads. I mean, you can see that there is a number of puns. I want to say, are we at the point of using puns and wordplay in the title of our academic journals these days? But apparently we have reached this point. This is the high point of academia here. There's just all of the pause my neg hole comments going on now. Where this paper goes, just from reading the abstract, I'm not entirely sure if you actually want to be saying that, because, my god, Tales from the Neg Hole. Oh, that's good, I like that one, but I was curious about this. I'm not entirely sure if I should have been curious, but I'm gonna give it a go, going through this. It's only, I think, 10 pages long, 11 pages long, something like that. So we should get on into here and check out what this is. So, Breeding Futures, Masculinity and the Ethics of Communion in Treasure Island Media's viral loads by, however the hell you're supposed to pronounce that. Is that Hoe Florencio? I'm guessing that is a Spanish pronunciation for that first name. I'm just going to go with Heo, because Hang on. Do you think that we've actually been able to spot that this is a troll paper before we've even begun? It's all about pozzing the neg holes, and the guy's name who wrote this is Heyo! I mean, come on. This has to be some sort of troll. Oh, it's Jorge, apparently. Thank you, chat. I have no idea how to pronounce Spanish or anything like that, but no. Apparently it's Jorge, not Heyo, which instantly lowers the possibility that it might just be a troll or something like that. Portuguese, Spanish, Portuguese, this is all the same thing. It's that bit of Europe down there that no one really cares about, or it's pronounced Taco Burrito Supreme. Oh, that's great. Yes, but apparently there is a Journal of Porn Studies, and this is a thing that we have to read now. This was published in May, as you can see, May 31st, 2018. So shall we just I think before we do the abstract, as is traditional, we should actually consider the keywords. But first, I would like to point out that this was from the Art, History and Visual Culture Centre of the University of Exeter, from Exeter in the UK. So, yes, the art and visual culture thing is looking at pornography. To me, again, this once again strikes me simply as someone at a university, a little bit repressed, desperately horny, wanted to watch some porn, and thus they turned their particular interest in the adult entertainment industry into a paper that they could write. It's not the first time that that's happened, not the first time that we've seen it, but it says a lot, I think. I do think that there are a few sexually repressed people out there who just really want to get in there and just be like, God, I've got this horrible porn addiction, and I just need to share it with the world. And so I think we're gonna have to deal with that. So the keywords here, bareback, just gonna leave that there, I think. The first keyword is bareback. This is the absolute state of academia in 2018. Bareback, masculinity, HIV, immunity, community, and posthumanism. We will find out, as I seem to recall, this paper does talk about a post-HIV world, because, of course, post-HIV, but bareback and HIV is in there. Someone in chat is saying, if porn studies is real, am I an amateur scientist? Absolutely. Absolutely you are. I think there are several people out there in chat who are going to be able to, who are going to be experts in this topic. So I am distinctly looking forward to your input on this chat. I think you guys may have some very interesting things to add. I believe the technical term that the kids like to use these days is hot takes. Bareback is better than raw dog, I suppose. Well, is it, chat? I wouldn't know. I'm not familiar with either of these terms. But again, this is why we've got the experts in chat available. We have the consumers of the medium. It's going to be great. So, let's leap on into the abstract of breeding futures, masculinity, and the ethics of communion in Treasure Island Media's Viral Loads. So in a recent interview, pornographer Paul Morris claimed his studio, Treasure Island Media, is a, quote, laboratory exploring the vital sexual symbiosis of human and viral DNA, end quote. I'm guessing he's using the term viral there in internet slang terminology, because viruses, DNA, this is not a thing, so I'm guessing he's talking about then that would require the internet to have DNA, and it's, to me, this sounds like one of those phrases that people come up with because it makes them sound really smart and really highbrow and all of that stuff, but it's completely meaningless. That's my thing that I'm just putting out there. So, departing from that claim, I examine his porn text, Viral Loads, to explore its implications for thinking future-oriented masculinities and community formations. So his porn text viral loads. So this is someone who he reads the Playboy magazines for the articles. Chat. Okay, there's some really good articles in Playboy and Penthouse and things like that. Honestly, I get them for the articles, chat. It's all about the articles. Of course. So I claim that viral loads forces us to rethink modern ideals of individual autonomy and bodily integrity, and alludes to alternative community formations, enacted not by holding something in common, but by relentlessly giving and exchanging foreign matter. Okay, let's try to do as the postmodernists would say and unpack that, shall we? Okay, so the author is positing that pornography from this particular company is forcing us to rethink our ideals of individual autonomy and bodily integrity and talk about them from a community standpoint and how community formations can be made by exchanging foreign matter. I think that this person is talking about how when you are in the middle of a bukkake, you absolutely are at the center of the community, you are the focus of the community, and that is something that's great. You know, it's really good. So, by depicting, quote, loads, end quote, circulating between bodies, posited as interfaces, so your body is how you interface with people, and these, quote, loads, unquote, are circulating between bodies. Viral loads gives us a porous and impure form of masculinity. Boy, if you're porous, you're doing something wrong. Or is porous a euphemism here? I think it might be. And in doing so, it breeds a queer future in which community ethics becomes an ethics of communion, a commoning with strangers that is offered as an alternative to politics of self and others. Okay. Okay. I can't help but just... So is this what? We're gonna start whacking each other off instead of shaking hands? Is this how this works now? The politics of self and others, the commoning with strangers? Or... Is this, like, the we're gonna be blood brothers forever thing, but instead of, like, pricking your finger or something, you, like, jizz into your hand and, like, squidge them together, it's like, yeah, we're besties now, or something. Yes, chat has the correct reaction here. Everyone is just, wait, what? What the fuck is this? Why? What? Why? Someone is asking, is this fake? No, this is not fake. This is not, as far as I'm aware, part of the grievance studies nonsense that happened earlier this year. I think this might actually be a thing that is real. Someone in the chat is pointing out Murdick, the academic paper. It may very well turn into Murdick. Just, I'm not gonna say that it's not, but this might be it. I think by reading this, Teal'c is giving us all the gift. It's very possible. I mean, HIV is one of the keywords. It's one of the key concerns of this paper. So you never know, there might actually be something interesting buried underneath all of the viral loads that we're going to have to dig through in this paper. I can't say the term viral loads and just not think of HIV-infused semen. That has to have been the point. I mean, come on, this... But it's great. It's great. And so I think we just need to go through it, because why not? Why not? It's going to be fun. So, since its creation in San Francisco in the late 1990s, Treasure Island Media has become not only one of the most controversial gay porn studios operating in the so-called post-AIDS world, but also one that has received a lot of scholarly attention. This is cited. I mean, come on, this... Really, post-AIDS world is a problematic term given how it can lead us to overlook the obscenely unequal levels of access to HIV care among different regions of the planet, ethnicities, and socio-economic strata. With this proviso in mind, the term is used here to refer to the places, geographical, cultural, and social, where, because of access to antiretroviral therapies, an AIDS diagnosis is no longer the expected prognosis of an HIV infection. Well, okay, that's great. That's good to know what a post-AIDS world is. I'm happy that we've got that. I'm happy that we've got this definition here. It's an interesting term to call this post-AIDS. I don't think that this is actually post-AIDS, because post-AIDS would imply after AIDS. Like, I suppose it's post-AIDS in the sense of, it's AIDS, HIV, but it's right, chat. We live in a society. We do live in a society, and we live in a society where this is a thing. But as I said, I don't think this would really be a post-AIDS society. This is more just AIDS treatment is not equally distributed amongst everywhere in the world, because different places in the world have different hospitals, different levels of wealth, different all of this, Okay, that's fine. Oh my lord, this is a thing. This is a thing. Yeah, man, let's get back up to there we go. So that is apparently what a post-AIDS world is. It is a Pozzed society, as chat is pointing out, but it to them, they're trying to say that it's a world in which everyone can get AIDS treatment, as opposed to a world in which everyone has AIDS, or a world without AIDS. I mean, like I said, I think if you had lived in a post-AIDS society, it would be... that will probably be a society in which there is no AIDS, but we're going to go with their definition, because why not? So TIM's popularity is certainly due to the particular way in which it embraces bareback. That is, condomless sex, presenting the exchange and accumulation, I should say, of bodily fluids, as well as their potential risk, as the target of libidinal investment. So basically, there are people out there who get turned on by the fact that there is a risk in having unprotected sex. We know this. I believe they are called bug chasers. They are degenerates who really, really need to be dealt with in a way that involves something very hot, probably fire. I'm going to go with fire, maybe thermite, something along those lines. It's not healthy, and yet there are people who do it. There are people who are obsessed with attempting to contract the largest number of sexual diseases that they can have. And they're... Oh, chat, why? Someone said press J to put what was it, the pause loads, just pause loads onto my chat. Why would you do that, chat? You're all going to be paused by the end of this. Still no anal fissure mention. I'm sure anal fissuring will come up later. After all, anal fissuring is one of the methods by which you can contract all of these sexual diseases. But yes, there are people out there who do aim to acquire as many sexually transmitted diseases as they can. For them, it is a manner of sexual fetish. Something about that really, really excites them, and they secretly hope that they will be able to spread them as well. It is something that is apparently referred to as giving the gift, or something like that. So there we go, that is for all of the people who are watching this, who don't know what that is, and don't know that it exists. It exists, and your faith in humanity has just died a little bit more assuming that you even had any. So the infamous popularity of such scenes, however, is not only a consequence of what we see men getting up to, it is also the result of how articulate Paul Morris, the founder of the company, and one of its pornographers, has been every time he has spoken publicly about TIM's work. For instance, in his speech entitled "No Limits, Necessary Danger in Male Porn," derived at the World Pornography Conference in Los Angeles in 1998, Morris defended his work by positioning it as documentary filmmaking as a trustworthy record of contemporary gay male sexual practices. Ah, there we go. So, this is not, as you can see, just making pornography. We have gone above and beyond the creation of pornography. We are now creating documentaries about sexual practices. So remember that, chat. Porn, not a thing. Documenting sexual practices. We're putting that academic veneer over the bollocks. Okay, that's what we're doing. You know, just those bollocks which are bouncing up and down on the screen right there, academic veneer all over them. Or not, as the case may be. They don't like having things over the genitals. It's educational, as chat points out, absolutely. These are very educational videos. In fact, I'm quite sure that the author would possibly agree with the position that these films would be suitable for uses in schools and lectures around the world. So, distancing himself from the work of mainstream gay porn studios like Falcon or Titan and what he regards as the, quote, very little truth content, end quote, of their, quote, slick porn, end quote, Morris claimed for himself the role of ethnographic filmmaker documenting the mess of viruses, germs, test results, imperfections, and real intimacy that he associates with the reality of a queer male subculture, defining itself heroically against homonormativity. Wow, homonormativity, not heteronormativity, homonormativity this time. So we've got someone, they are the edgy boys, they are the super edgy people, dealing with the things that no other gay pornographer will... Sorry, not gay pornographer, gay homosexual documentarian of sexual liaisons. They are not... They are documenting those things. It's historical. It's for historical analysis. My God, why am I doing this? This is awful. Chat, why is this a thing? Okay, so to him, by embracing risk and rejecting the assimilations rhetoric of mainstream LGBT politics, gay men become the new heirs of queer counterculture. Here we go, move over, crippled black lesbians. Gay men are getting on top of that hierarchy once again. So you better be prepared. You're gonna be topped by some very gay men very shortly. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Still, TIM's status as documentary filmmaking is not as straightforward as Morris has claimed. Well, obviously, he's not making a documentary, they're making pornography. Unless maybe they have a narrator or something like that. That could be an interesting thing. Just a thing. If any of these, what were we calling them? Documentarians of homoerotic sexual liaisons, should any of you be watching this, I would like to put my hat in the ring, or voice in the ring, as someone willing to narrate your documentaries. I would be totally okay with that if that's something that you wanted to do. Or just any documentarian of sexual liaisons. I will happily go in for that. I will sit here and I will narrate what is happening on the screen. I shall narrate as the man enters. We can have what would it be? Something like a pizza man approaches down a dark alleyway at night. He knocks on the front door, removing the pizza from its warm pouch. A scantily clad, attractive blonde opens the door. "Hello," the man greets her. What would it be? It would be no, because there wouldn't be any dialogue in it, would it? It would be like, the man greets her and hands her the pizza box. The attractive blonde opens the pizza box and finds, aghast, that there is an erect penis in the middle of her cheese pizza. And it could just go on from there. You see, I think this could be a beautiful thing, chat. I think this is the start of an entirely new career for me. I think, you know what, we should stop this stream right here, and I should get out there and make that my new career, because fuck, I think it would actually just be better than reading this shit. So as porn and media scholars like Linda Williams, Fiona Atwood, Laura Kipnis and Susan have argued, porn is less about documenting reality and more about producing a reality effect, thanks to what Parsonen describes as a complex interplay between authenticity and artifice. And actually, this is something that I would agree with them on. Pornography is not a straight-up documenting. It is a fiction. It's something which is not realistic. It is a fantasy setting. But there is, and I would actually agree with the state that there is an interplay between authenticity and artifice, insofar as there is actually, to some degree, they do try to make things somewhat authentic, albeit that plumbers and pizza boys and things like that tend to rarely be the 6.5 foot tall, muscle-bound, 12-inch dick people who get to fuck their customers. It's not what happens. In my general experience, they tend to be 5 foot something Arabs who don't really speak your language, just kind of smile and give you the thing through the door, and that's it. And usually they get your order wrong as well, so then you have to phone them up, and you've got to talk to them, and you've got to say, bitch, this is not what I ordered on my pizza, and they're just like, I'm sorry, but what is it you were saying? The thing you gave me is not correct, and then you've got to get it back, you've got to get the new ones, it's just a hassle, it's just awful. Anyway, less said about that, the better. So, porn is authentic, because after all, it is a record of sexual acts that have indeed taken place. True. But it is also artificial in as much as each scene is performed, and often especially lit for the camera. Yes, porn, especially lit. That is absolutely what I would say. But it is especially lit for the camera, with performers and a cameraman positioned in such a way as to grant the viewer maximum visibility and a mediated sense of physical closeness to the action. I believe that would be referred to as point of view pornography, or something along those lines. But I would actually agree. I would agree with what has been said thus far. This is an accurate half paragraph about pornography. Such a view is also shared by Tim Dean, who, despite accepting TIM's porn as an ethnographic record, nonetheless still acknowledges the ways in which its documentary aesthetics depends on a series of particular pornographic techniques that betray the impotence of vision alone to capture raw sex. Techniques such as subtitling the compromise money shot, when the top pulls the penis out in order to make ejaculation visible, the reverse money shot, when the bottom pushes out the semen in his rectum, unedited ambient sounds, and cameramen intentionally visible in the shot, and even the occasional presence of the director's voice speaking off camera as the action unfolds, are all stylistic decisions used to produce and reinforce the effect of documentary realism pursued by TIM. To me, that just makes it sound like these people are just kind of bad at their jobs if cameramen are getting into the shot and you can hear the director off thing. That sounds like poor video editing and poor sound editing or something along those lines. Just subtitling money shots. You wouldn't. Why would you need to subtitle it? It's for deaf people. Subtitles are for deaf people. Surely they'd have no problem viewing the money shot. They don't need to see man one written on. Do they need that to come up in big letters on the bottom of the screen because they can't see what's going on there? I would imagine if you had the voiceover or something like that, that that would be a little different, but I can't imagine that you need those to be subtitled. The voiceover, though, would be hilarious. Something like that. The large muscle-bound man's face flushes red, his features twisted in ecstasy as he removes his penis from the other man's anal opening and proceeds to masturbate furiously, sending arcing ropes of jism across the exposed buttocks of the bottom. Thank you for that, chat. I will attempt to turn that into my job. I have a new aim. I have a new aim in life. Someone in chat just put the subtitle for the bottom would just be "shit scum." Bottom groans faggishly. Yes, it that's pretty much where it's going. Oh lord, this is awful. Okay, let's let's continue on with this, and we'll see where this goes. 0 out of 10 didn't come. Oh, come on, chat. Come on, chat. Come on. I mean, this is only page 1. I mean, this is gonna get a lot worse, I can only assume. However, what strikes me in Morris's speech, delivered 2 years after antiretroviral therapy and viral load tests were introduced as to successfully manage HIV infection, is that it shows an understanding of contemporary gay male subjectivities and sexual practices, as well as their politics. Okay, I'm not entirely sure how that shows the politics. Interesting hypothesis. Let's see if they follow through on that. So it's being enacted at the intersections of the body with clinical discourses, medical research, biopolitical technologies, and microscopic forms of quasi-life. I've never heard HIV being described as microscopic forms of quasi-life. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. Yes. It is an accurate description of what a virus is. So, microscopic form of quasi-life. True. I like that phrase. That is a fantastic phrase. Good on them for being able to use it. More recently, in an interview with Parsonen, he expanded on that point and on TIM's role in relation to it. TIM is 2 things, basically. We're a developing and living archive of real male sexual experience, and we're a laboratory that performs experiments that the men involved in our community propose. You could say that we're a genetic laboratory exploring the vital sexual symbiosis of human and viral DNA. For the most part, gay porn pretends to represent experience without peril, experimentation without damage. Most gay porn hides behind a facade of safeness, but in my case, the men in my work are considered and prized for being damaged, for having taken what conservative gays deem the ultimate risk and loss. In a world increasingly dominated by the medical gaze, to willingly live in symbiosis with a virus is seen as irrational and socially expensive. I see it as necessary and revolutionary. Okay, so You've got a bunch of HIV-infected gay porn stars who fuck each other on film, and this is just breaking. The mold is broken. It's gone, and now we get to watch guys committing the sodomy, knowing that they have HIV. Fantastic, great, just well done, congratulations, just brilliant. I'm amazed that this is not something... Amazing how they have to dress up ass fucking in so much jargon. Yeah, it is, chat, but this is what they do. Conservative gays, yes, because if you don't have HIV, then you're conservative, because, it's very progressive. You've got to have all of the bugs in order to be progressive these days. That's how it works. Because otherwise, you're just normal, and that's boring. You see, you need to be progressive. You've got to get all them bugs in you. So here, Morris claims TIM's bareback porn is to be more than an autographic record of sexual practices of 21st century gay men. To him, TIM should also be seen as a creative, future-oriented, and necessary research enterprise invested in the production of new chimeric bodies. Chimeric bodies. The production of chimeric bodies. You're jizzing up another man's ass. That you're not going to... New bodies are not formed that... Okay. We have to have the talk. Morris, we need to sit down, we need to have the talk. It's time for you to learn about the birds and the bees. You see, in order for a baby, yeah, you know, the mummy and the daddy, they have to have the special cuddle. You know, when two men have the special cuddle, it doesn't work. Oh, okay, yeah. Someone in chat is asking, is X videos a documentary educational site? Absolutely. According to this paper, completely. Isn't the production of chimeric bodies what Human Centipede was? Very possible. I mean, I have to wonder, are they talking about the man train? Is that where they're going with chimeric bodies? Just multiple men just backing into each other? Is that how they're going with it? Wow, okay, but yeah, chimeric bodies, it's a thing that happens when you have the HIV and the buttfuckery. That's how you... Do you want to have chimeras? Because that's how you get chimeras. Posited as a contemporary form of symbiogenesis, bareback sex becomes TIM's research method, and framed in such way offers itself for ontological speculation. Bareback sex, it's a research method. I wish I knew that having sex was a research method. I suppose for women it always has been when it comes to getting passing grades in school. Hi-oh! Or ho-hey, as it should be. Are we talking about the train? Of course we are. The degenerate conga line. There you go, that's another good word for it. That's how you get AIDS. That is how you get AIDS, chap. This is how you get AIDS. Using the butt sex as a research method, that's how you get AIDS. Or do you have to have AIDS in order to perform the research method? It gets very complicated, I'm sure. There's going to be a lot of polished neg holes in this, isn't there? So sure, it is likely that Morris's statement are a crucial part of the very successful marketing strategy of his studio, one through which it sells dreams of a transgressive sexual utopia at least as much as it sells pornography. So in other words, you cater to bug chasers. That's your thing. Okay, I mean, if you want to do that, fine. If you want to go ahead with that, but really though, is this? Well, this is a thing. Okay, Yep. If you want extra research funding, better prep that ass. Yep. It's fantastic. That is how you get those A grades in school. You just gotta prep that up, just slide on in there, and then boom, A grade immediately. Fantastic. And who knows? Maybe that's going to be part of a voiceover for another piece of pornography. You never know. As the young, smooth male student prepares his professor, and so on and so forth, and all those things. Preparing to receive the penis. His finger begins working in a clockwork fashion around the anal opening, applying lubricant first to the outside of the anus, and then to the inside of the anus. The young boy's professor, his penis erect and to attention, glides with little resistance in to the anal opening of the young man. Minute anal fissures appear, and thus the transmission of the HIV virus has been a success. And so on and so forth. It can just go on and on like that. Getting a little bit too into narrating gay porn as if I'm David Attenborough. But who knows, maybe that should be a thing. Still, his idea that HIV Seroconversion might lead to new forms of human symbiogenesis is not so far-fetched. Studies in immunology have shown that the incorporation of retroviral genes into human DNA is an observable phenomenon in human retrovirus coevolution. For instance, in an article published in the Journal of the Royal Society of Medication, Frank Ryan notes as early as the 1970s, scientists had already identified retroviral genetic material buildup into the genome of mammals, including humans. What, my mic got fucked? Oh no! What happened? Did I knock the slider? There we go, volume low. It's better. It's better. It looks like it should be okay now. It's going through better on the mixer now. It's not muted. It shouldn't be muted anyway. There is a possibility that it just that I've just knocked a dial somewhere, but it doesn't. I sound like a fucking boomer. That is very possible. Let me. The Pozzed's got it. Okay, good. There we are, fixed. Yeah, I think I just accidentally knocked a dial when I was putting something down. It happens every so often. But there we go. You see, unlike boomers, I'm able to fix shit. I don't just sit there chatting bullshit and chuckling about it for 20 minutes before people actually finally get through to me. No, I am able to fix things on the fly. So, we have here the... what is it? The incorporation of retroviral genes into the human. So this is fine. So basically, humans, they have the HIV, and the HIV is ever-changing, and humans also adapt to go along it. Okay, that's fine. Great. Let's keep going and see if this actually goes somewhere. I don't think that it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't give me that shit, chat. I've kind of learned to not entirely trust the chat when it comes to it, but I find my chat tends to be they tend to be fairly reliable, somewhat reliable. No smuckles for Teal. It's true. I try to avoid smuckling. Knocked a dial. Knocked a dial, end quote. Oh yes. We're talking about retroviral agents when it comes to humans. I mean, what, you expect me to keep both my hands on the desk when we're talking about that? Come on, chap. You know me better than that. So thanks to a long process of coevolution that involved the incorporation of their genetic material into the germ cell lines of their hosts, some retroviruses developed a survival strategy based on vertical rather than horizontal transmission. In other words, the genes responsible for coding the synthesis of viral proteins became part of the human genome and started being passed down by progenitors as part of their offspring's own DNA, thus no longer requiring the exposure and infection of new hosts in order to secure replication and survival. Added to that, and assuming the exogenous forebears of our human endogenous retroviruses once behaved as highly contagious infections following transmission pathways akin to that of HIV-1 millions of years ago, it is not hard to imagine a possible distant future where HIV itself could become written into the human genome in what could be as yet another instance of symbiogenesis, or symbiogenesis, I should pronounce it, in a mutualist process of human viral coevolution. No. There is not, to my knowledge, a virus that has infected the entirety of humanity equally and then gets passed down heritably like that. As far as I'm aware, that's not a thing. HIV becoming that thing? Probably not. Especially since HIV is detrimental to the host. Even when it's passed down not via a transmission vector. So when basically if you don't get it via the butt sex and whatnot, is someone saying HIV is the next mitochondrion? It sounds like that's where they're trying to go with it, but that's not what's going to happen. The problem is HIV would be detrimental to the host unless it massively changed. No. I don't see HIV as being this this thing as it's going to go. So, unlikely human HIV hybrids are real. They're called SJWs. Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, we're going to just go a little bit further. Like I said, I don't see HIV going that way on account of it being specifically disadvantageous for people to actually have. Yeah, no, also for it to become that widespread, I'm just gonna say no. It would kill too many people, and it wouldn't work. I don't see HIV as being the next step in human evolution. I mean, I don't know. We've seen a girl on this channel before who said that people who eat arse are the next step in human evolution. So you never know. Maybe HIV. Maybe HIV could be the next step in human evolution. You never know, chat. You never know. That's the thing. You've got to be open to these possibilities. You've got to open yourself up and just let them slip on in there. And that's how you learn things. So, let's continue. Someone's actually asking, are there microbiotic organisms that are passed from parent to offspring and are symbiotic? Most animals have acquired symbiotic microbes by doing stuff like eating parents' poops. Actually, I'm not sure. It's not something that I've ever even looked into. It's just not something that's ever come up. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll look into it and see if there is something. See if there is like a microchlorian that might do that or something. It'd be interesting if there is. But there's none that like immediately spring to mind. Like I said, it's not something that I've ever looked up or researched or has ever come up as part of work or anything like that. So I don't know. I can't tell you, but possibly I might have a little look-see into it, or you could do that yourself. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So, such a possibility also makes sense in light of recent studies on acquired immunity, which argue that, in order to be successful, pathogens need to balance their virulence with their infectivity, which is true. What this means is that a pathogen cannot be so virulent that it ends up killing its host before the latter gets a chance to transmit it. Thus, instead of pathogens and hosts evolving separately, the former to kill faster and the latter to become more efficient at defending itself against a foreign agent, both the pathogens and the immune systems of their host species co-evolve. This is true. One procs an evolution in the other, and then that one procs an evolution in the other. It's just a feedback loop. It's something that's constant like that. It's like any animals or creatures just interacting with each other in their environment. They each place a pressure on one, and then one changes to do that. So there we go. Bacteria in the intestine are symbiotic. They assist in digestion. Yes, they do. Is that parent to offspring? It must be parent to offspring. A bacteria passed down from parent to offspring. Yeah, I suppose they would be, because breast milk and whatnot. Yeah, that's an interesting one to think of. Like I said, it's not something that I've ever read up on, but yeah, there you go. Gut bacteria. That would be an example of it. So there you go. Chat has answered that query for you. So yes, gut bacteria would be something that could count for that. So yeah, there you go. Interesting thing. Like I said, not something I've ever studied or even thought about. It's just never come up, really. But yeah, this point of coevolution basically between viruses and their environments, yeah, this is true. This is how it works. That process has more to do with an increase in their levels of tolerance to one another than with an escalation of a warlike zero-sum game aimed at the victory of one side and the defeat of the other. What these recent developments demonstrate is that the paradigms which sustain immunology have come a long way since immunity was first discovered, as authors such as Ed Cohen or Roberto Esposito? Esposito in the paper about... Maybe I'm just seeing the term pos everywhere, but it seems like it's almost planted. Almost. Have argued the modern body had been understood as a private territory with borders in constant need of defence against foreign invasion. From the mid-1600s onwards, with the transposition of paradigms of immunity as defence from political theory to medicine, and their subsequent strengthening thanks to Elie Metchanov's Foundation in Immunological Research of the late 1800s, modern thought started conceiving the body as a discrete territory defined through the enforcement of its borders with the outside environment. Just want to see private territory with borders and constant from the transportation of paradigms from the immunity of political theory to medicine and subsequent strengthening. I don't know if that's a thing. Obviously, it required the advent of germ theory to really strengthen that. But before that, we were using the concept of things like the four humours and odour and whatnot as ways of dealing with immune problems and, well, just sickness in general. I don't know whether that took it from political theory to medicine. I mean, things like the balancing of the four humours and whatnot, that's always been known as medicine. You could argue that there was some political use of it, insofar as there have always been people through history who have attempted to use different medical reasons to separate people out from each other. I mean, basic ones would be things. Yeah, political theory. The hell. Yeah, I know, Chad. It's a weird thing to put in there, because even before germ theory, we had things like the concept of the miasma and the humours and whatnot. That's always been medicine. Like, that's not been political. Like I said, there's always been political aspects to medicine and political uses for medicine. But the idea that they're like that it suddenly went from one to the other is no. I find that a really weird. It's just an odd claim, or an odd way of just an odd way of phrasing it. But I don't think that is true, that it went from one to the other, or that it was ever more political theory than medical theory. Like, humans have pretty much always had a good understanding that medicine is a thing. Like, even going back, I would say, to before humans were human, or in the very early days of, like, Stone Age humans, you'd still have, like, medicine people and shamans and whatnot who would be like, we will use this herb or eat this clay or something, and it'll be good for you, and it'll do this thing. That it's still medicine. That wasn't political theory at all. So again, I don't see where this would have happened. But yeah, I've spent long enough on that sentence anyway. But I find that it's just an odd claim and an odd way of phrasing it. So anyway, in Cohen's words, the modern body aspires to localize human beings within an epidermal frontier that distinguishes the person from the world for the duration which we call a life. That's true. That is how the human body works. It is a self-contained unit. You have your skin, everything inside your skin is you, everything outside your skin is not you. Obviously, including things like your keratin, like your nails and hair, which are outside the skin. But yeah, the thing that you can see, that's you, and everything within that's you. That is how it works, and all of that stuff is different from everything that's outside. Yes, that is true. I'm gonna see if they want to actually talk about the digestive system and whatnot there, because that would be an interesting one. So yes, everything outside is you, but then you put things inside yourself which passes through the donut shape that is the human, and then changes things that are inside you and whatnot based on there. And there is actually something really interesting for you to think about, chat. Humans are technically donuts. You've all got a hole in the middle that goes right the way from one end to the other end. It's a really weird way to think of humans like that. And actually, chat, there is an even weirder thing to think of, which is when humans grow, they actually basically grow out of the arsehole. It's pretty funny, like, how the cells split together, form when they're working, when they're growing. They sort of work as a cluster, then they form the hole in the middle, and then everything grows out from that. So technically, every single person is an arsehole. It's just a giant arsehole, because that's what you grew out of. That's just how it works. It's kind of like the mouth and the arsehole hole. It's the same thing. It's the mouth and the anal opening, and then you just split up and grow out from that central point. It's really actually quite interesting watching the process either either as a sort of a, what's the word I'm looking for, as a time lapse thing, or as a like a 3D model, just putting it out. But it's really interesting just to watch that happen, because obviously your body does have to grow with this giant opening that runs all the way through it. It's actually quite interesting just watching how that forms. It's really interesting. But yeah, there you go, something interesting, and it's actually relevant to this paper as well. Humans are all arseholes. They're donuts. Human beings are donut-shaped. TLD 2018, there we go. It is true, I should use the academic term sapient rectaltory. There we go. It is done. We're actually pretzels topologically. No, my human beings are donut-shaped. There's no room for your pretzel-shaped humans in my science. They're actually donuts. I can just imagine someone taking that as a clip from this thing. Oh, TLD says that humans are donut-shaped. Like, context. That's the thing that matters. Anyway, let's continue on with the paper. We're barely through it, and we're getting sidetracked by buttholes. Thanks to the work of Hetminchinov, and others, immunity came to be seen as a mechanism whereby a body establishes its biological self, its identity, and protects its integrity through a process of self-non-self discrimination. The modernization of the body through the paradigm of immunity also operated in tandem with wider biopolitical institutions and discourses that were developed to govern life, to preside over the production of the subject, and to manage the truth of the self in its difference from the other, what Michael Foucault named subjectivization. Modernization of the paradigm to immunity. I'm not entirely sure if it was the sort of medical side of this which did that. Again, just it's a weird way. There's already that audio clip of TLD saying the natural state of rays is clipping through buildings. It's true. The natural state of stingrays and manta rays and things like that is clipping through buildings. It absolutely is. That's how they work. They all have the ability to just go straight through things. We confirmed that in that stream that one time. But yeah, it happened. However, thanks to developments in contemporary immunology, the self-non-self discrimination that played such an important role in modern understandings of immunity has come undone as a result of what Alfred Tauber calls the ecological sensibility of contemporary biology. Accordingly, the body is no longer conceived as a discrete closed unit but as an ecosystem, and immunity thus becomes less a defense against foreign matter and more a process of interfacing in which foreign matter can be tolerated in the interests of the organism, its survival, and crucially, its evolution. As a consequence, biological bodies have not only been reconceived as heterogeneous, partially compromised, exogenous entities, but are also now seen to exist in a co-constitutive relationship with their surroundings, whereby the organism is constructed by its environment as well as it in turn constructs it. Again, this is true, your body does have a localized ecology. Your body does discriminate in what it takes in and what it does not, and how it works with it, as well as it still being that self-contained unit as it happens. So yeah, I am on board with what we have got so far about the biology. Now, I mean, honestly, I was expecting worse from this paper, but thus far, talking about the biological side of things like this, it's a little condensed, but what they have got in here is, yes, it is true. They are correct when it comes to what they've got about the biology and the various ecosystems that inhabit humans, like the various what are they? Like your immune systems and the various bacteria that your body have growing on and around them. So yes, this is true. Now I want to know how exactly this is going to be extrapolated out to basically talk about the butt sex and the HIV and how the HIV is the next step in human evolution, because clearly it isn't. Chat says it's going to get worse. Oh, I would imagine it's going to get worse, but from here, you know, it's all right. So despite all that, Paul Morris's vital symbiosis of human and viral DNA will at best only take place in a very distant future. At worst, it is nothing but braggadocio by a pornographer who has built a career and subcultural celebrity status out of the controversy of his pornographic texts and public statements. Still, if we approach bareback simultaneously as porn subgenre and de facto gay male sexual practice, in terms of what Paul Pozzed calls the pharmacopornographic regime, we cannot so easily discount Morris's words. Oh dear, okay. Is this going to be one of those, someone said it somewhere that one time, and now, as a result, we've got to take something really seriously just because, you know, someone said something that one time? I can quite easily see that being the case. Hopefully that won't be what's going to happen here. I'm still honestly quite amazed about the concept of pharmacopornographic regimen or regime. That is, yeah. Okay, well, let's see if they're gonna find a way of trying to link this together. Pharmacopornographic regime. That just sounds slightly cynical, honestly. But let's see where they take this. So by pharmacopornographic, good, they're actually going to give us a definition here. That's very useful of them. Presidio means the process of biomolecular and semiotic technical government of sexual subjectivity that define contemporary biopolitics. Oh dear, okay. So, Presidio argues that contemporary subjectivities are produced and maintained thanks to a system of chemical, semiotic, and technological prostheses that attach to bodies, informing them as they do so, giving them both their form and their meaning. What the... Wow, okay, that is pure word salad there. Informing things as well as giving them their form and their meaning. So they argue that contemporary subjectivities, which is basically just the subjective experience of things, are produced and maintained thanks to a system of chemical, semiotic, and technological prostheses that attach to bodies, informing them. Just sounds like a very semiotic in this context. Apparently so, but I don't buy it. This basically just sounds like a very fancy way of saying that different things in the environment stimulate people in different ways. Wow, okay, great, that... No. It just seems like again, a ridiculous way of phrasing things, which is kind of half wrong, but kind of half right. I think it really depends on how you read it, like how you actually take apart the absolute word salad that they've just put out there. Is this line about strap-ons? I think it may very well be. I mean, we are talking about technological prostheses that attach to bodies, and give meaning to other people's lives or something like that. So maybe it is the strap-on sodomy that gives people some meaning in their lives. So building on Therese I am so bad with names. Teresa de Laurentiis' notion of technology of gender. Technology of gender. That is a thing that happens. Presadio argues that the pharmacopornographic regime functions like a machine of somatic representation in which text, image, and the corporeal spread through the interior of an expansive cybernetic circuit and are responsible for creating toxic pornographic subjectivities. What? Okay, right. See, this is... See, okay, I'm gonna put this point in here. The mic again. Yeah, it's gone lower on OBS for some reason. I don't know why. It's, I actually have no idea what's causing this. There is actually, there's no reason for this to be happening at all. No, that's, put it way up too high. Derp, de derp, de derp, de derp, de derp, de derp, de derp. There we go, back in the point where it should be. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening. I think, I think it's possible my XLR cable might just be on the fritz because it's fucking old. Honestly, I've had this XLR cable for, God, what, a couple of decades now, so I wouldn't be surprised if actually I just need to replace that cable. It's possible. But we know how to fix it. It's not a problem. I can just do it on the fly. I just have to move that slider over to there so I can see it a little bit better, and then I can just fix it on the fly if that's so it's just an old, it's just like I said, just a bit of old tech that'll I'll replace it soon, and hopefully this won't be a problem. And apparently OBS has decided to fucking kill itself as well. Why is this a thing? Why? Oh, no, OBS, you're working fine. Don't give me those messages, you liar. Fucking technology, man. It's cease and desist having your problems, computer. I didn't bring you into this house so you could fuck everything up. Alright? Alright? Fucking behave yourself. There we go. So you just give your technology a good talking to every once in a while, and it'll sort itself out. That's all you gotta do. Like everything else in your life, you just have to fucking give it a little bit, just give it a little bit of a bitch slap, and it works fine. See, because OBS, heaven forbid it work properly, yeah, OBS is finicky sometimes. I've found overall, it can be quite reliable, but sometimes it just decides, like, hey, I'm not gonna work, because, you know, fuck you, that's why. Just reasons. Alright. So, the linguistics, imaginary, and material plugins operate as catalysts in processes of subjectivization, intervening within the... Okay. Actually, this was... I'm going to go on to the rant which I was going to go on about before XLR cables decided they wanted to be 2 decades old and just fuck up. Yeah, have you noticed the difference between feminist academia, I just want to say like general progressive academia, compared to, say, medical academia? Okay, and in order to make this comparison, I want you to compare this paragraph that we've just read, talking about the pharmacopornographic, what was it, regime that they've called it, the pharmacopornographic regime. Compare that paragraph to a couple of paragraphs earlier where we were talking about immunology and just the... what do I want to call it? Just the medical... Basically, the medical part compared to the progressive part. Okay? These parts up here, where we were talking about, you know, the microcosm that is the human, the constant interaction that the human body has, feedback loop-wise with its environment and things like that, how much easier and clearer that was to understand compared to the couple of paragraphs later, the pharmacopornographic blah 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 blah, turned into complete and utter word salad. Like, have you noticed that? I know this is something which I've brought up before, but I want to just bring it up again here. Like, compare the sentence talking about medicine, basically, to now the pseudo-political bollocks that this author is trying to put on top of, like, medical reality. Like, the difference is just night and day. You see, when you get scientists who write things, they try to make things really, really clear. But when you get the progressive side who want to talk about all this stuff, suddenly it just becomes this impenetrable word salad of complete and utter nonsense. They just start using terms incorrectly, as we've identified. They start making shit up, and in doing so, they basically just throw a load of stuff together, which ultimately kind of just comes across as being a sort of, what's the phrase? If you can't convince them with reasoning, dazzle them with bullshit, or something like that. Like, that's the difference. And this paper, to me, you've just got such a night and day difference. The medical side, really easy to grasp, everything is clearly written, and it's explained. Go on to the pseudo-political bullshit side, the obscurantism of this, and it's right there. Just obfuscation, obscurantist nonsense. This paper has actually been really good, because it's given us a really good example of this in real time. The difference between good, clearly written, well explained things to this complete and utter word salad nonsense. So that is actually really good. So I rate this paper as a good example of the differences in writing style between stuff that actually is correct and meaningful to stuff which is just a bunch of complete woo nonsense and just general and utter bollocks that they're just spouting out to try and sound really intelligent so that people will just go, I don't understand what you just said. Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, I don't understand it, therefore it must be correct. That's it. This is a good example of that, I think. So those linguistic, imaginary, and material plugins operate as catalysts in processes of subjectivization, intervening within and feeding back into the body conceived as an interface. In that context, as one of a myriad of prostheses, I'm really bad at pronouncing the word, prostheses, there we go, a myriad of prostheses informing contemporary subjectivities through their mediation of desires and pleasures, pornographic texts code meanings and value systems and incorporate them in the bodies of particular sexual linguistic communities. Wow, you see, complete and utter word salad again. Let's try and actually unpack their meaning here and actually try to understand what the fuck was just said. And you see, again, the difference. Like, read through the medical side stuff, I only have to read through it once. It's like, boom, got it, understood, completely, really easily. Read through the pseudo-political woo side of things over here, the progressive part of the paper, and suddenly it's like, you fucking what, mate? And you've got to go back and just read it 2 or 3 times before you even begin to actually understand what it is. And this annoys me, and it annoys me because then you get the progressive people who come in, they're just like, oh, well, this is just proof that you're some uneducated moron because you can't understand what's being said. That's just proof that you shouldn't be talking about it. It's, well, why can I understand the in-depth medical side of things and expound upon that really easily, but then you get to this part and suddenly it's like, what the ever-loving fuck are you talking about? You know, it's no, if I was just some stupid, uneducated person, I wouldn't have understood any of it. But the fact that I can understand the in-depth medical parts and then expand upon what's being said there really easily, says something compared to this. It, like, can they explain that difference? Well, inevitably they can't, but there you go. But what can I say? The progressives, they're all such big brain thinking thought nibbers for me. I just can't keep up with that shit. It's true, chat. I need to watch more Richard and Mortimer. If only I got through a few seasons of that, I'd understand. Okay, so linguistic imaginary and material plugins. That one's kind of obvious. Again, language, things that you perceive in your mind, and things that exist in reality. Plugins. What plugins did they mention in this previous sentence? I'm guessing they're referring to the environmental stimulation that they were... And again, I'm having to make a big assumption that when they were talking about this chemical, semiotic, and technological prostheses, that's what they're talking about, basically environmental stimulation in various forms. I have to assume that that's what they're talking about here, because otherwise it doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense. So operates as a catalyst in the processes of subjectivization. Well, they're not... I don't know if you'd want... Well, I suppose it is a catalyst in the strictest sense of the definition, but it is just a... It's just a stimulus, that's all it is. There is a difference between a catalyst and a stimulus, so I don't know whether I'd use the term catalyst there or just call it a stimulus. Again, this part here, it just seems like it's... we have a word limit that we need to hit, because I'm thinking thus far that this entire paragraph in this sentence could have been reduced down to like a single sentence, and that is, there is environmental stimulus, including da-da-da-da-da, and these things act to define the subjective experience of a person. Intervening within and feeding back into the body, conceived as an interface. But you see, again, it's this conceived as an interface nonsense from before. It's you don't have to conceive it as that. There are things about your body which do interface with the environment, and other things which don't, which are completely self-contained. So again, you've got to... it would have been better to make that differentiation. So in that context, as one of a myriad of prostheses informing contemporary subjectivities through their mediation of desires and pleasures, pornographic texts, code meaning and value systems, and incorporate them into bodies of particular... so in other words, in this context of of environmental feedbacks, basically different environmental feedbacks exist, and in the context that different environmental feedbacks exist, some people prefer other things, and different people prefer different things. That's it. In this context, it's a myriad of prostheses informing this thing of pornographic texts and whatnot, and the value system incorporate them into the yeah. Meanings and value system incorporate into the bodies of particular sexual linguistic communities. Yeah. Basically, different environmental stimuli are... how would we say this? Different environmental stimuli influence people's choices of pornography according to personal preference and their own experience. That's it. That is literally all that this 1.5 paragraphs have said. This 1.5 paragraphs can be boiled down to the sentence: the environment contains different stimuli, different people enjoy different stimuli, and as a result of different people enjoying different stimuli, pornography has been created to cater to different enjoyment of stimuli. Like, that's it. That's it. That's that paragraph and a half in a fucking nutshell. It's different strokes for different folks. That's it. In a fucking nutshell. That's what this paragraph and a half has said. Obfuscational language. This is progressive academia in a fucking nutshell. And I'm still waiting for this to go back to reattach this to the whole HIV AIDS and whatnot thing. It's like I'm waiting for you to, link these things together. But again, I know I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record, but all of that shit, which basically just said different strokes for different folks, compare that to the part we were talking about earlier, which was literally just talking about the medical reality of the body and how the body works within its environment. Compare this to that, and how this is impenetrable pseudoscience woo compared to the actual medical part. It's ridiculous. It's true, chat, we're just not intellectually evolved enough to understand. But you see, that's what progressives say when you stumble over all of this bullshit and you're like, okay, what the fuck are you talking about? And you have to break it down like this. Like, I can guarantee you, if you took any of them and just made them read this, they wouldn't understand it. If you were just like, okay, explain it to a 5-year-old, they wouldn't be able to do it. But it's like, well, I can because I've actually taken the time to deconstruct it and learn what it means. But again, why is this done in such obscurantist language compared to the medical part? It's just fucking... Can you explain? Why does it sound like it was written by 2 different people? Probably because it was written by 2 different people, who knows? Thus, as a form of sexual vernacular that makes no sharp distinction between sex and text, pornography is an important resource to understand how contemporary subjectivities are coded. Such an avenue of inquiry, however, must not only take into account what happens on screen, but must also consider the statements and institutions that environ and frame its sexual scenes. It is in this context that, departing from Morris's discussion of TIM's work, I will now focus on the intertextuality of his production, Viral Loads, in order to examine the ways in which it codes both masculinities and sexual communities. The reasons for focusing on this particular pornographic text shall become clear as the argument progresses. Okay, so this time, he's going to go on to talk about the porn that he's been watching, basically, because that's what all of these papers ever come down to. The fact that someone working somewhere decided that they wanted to watch a piece of porn that one time, and now they're trying to justify it, because why not? So they're going to get onto that, and let's see if we can actually decode the nonsense that's been said here. So, in the sexual vernacular, so basically just in the language of sex, that makes no sharp distinction between sex and text, I would argue that it does. Text in this context, I believe they're talking about basically just anything that you reference. It's not actual, like, text as in words on a page, it's things that can be referenced. So, in that sense, media, moving pictures, video, audio, things like that are counted as texts for that reason. Does it make no distinction between being a piece of media and just being sex? I would say that yes, it does. The reason being that pornography, as was stated earlier, actually correctly, is that pornography is not just sex. There is other stuff going on as well. Sometimes by accident or by design, the illusion that a piece of pornography is just 2 people having sex will be broken, because you may have people interacting with the camera or something like that. The camera may be being used in some capacity like that. There may be things that come from offset to break that immersion. And also there's the fact that you are aware that it is a piece of pornography, not a piece of sex, because unsurprisingly, people know the difference between fantasy and reality. People know the difference between watching a piece of pornography and having sex, because watching a piece of pornography, you're watching 2 people have sex, and having sex, you're having sex with another person. Those 2 things are very, very different. Your body actually responds to them quite differently as well. So the idea that there is no distinction between sex and being a piece of visual art, as I'm sure they'd like to portray it, no, I would just say that that is flat out incorrect. There is a very distinct distinction between the two. There is a bit of blurring of the lines, obviously, as with any piece of fantasy media. The point is to suspend disbelief, and as such there is that very slight blurring there. But what about homemade amateur porn? That's actually what I mean by there is that slight blurring. So something like, say, point of view, that would be a blurring of the line, because that would then be having a surrogate in your place. In that sense, the man or woman from whom the point of view is shot has become the audience surrogate in that point. But still, you know that you're not engaging in sex, you're watching pornography. You'd know the difference, again. So the idea that there is no distinction, I disagree with that profoundly, because there is a difference, and everyone knows that there is a difference. So such an avenue of inquiry must not only take into account what happens on screen, but must also consider the statements and institutions that environ and frame the sex scenes. Such an avenue. So when you're inquiring into the subjective opinion or the subjectivities, so when you're inquiring into the experiences of pornography, that would presumably include not only the actors and actresses, but the people consuming the media, you need to take into account statements and institutions that basically that make those things. In that context, TIM works. You'll now focus on the intertextuality of his production in order to examine the ways in which it codes masculinities and sexual communities. So you're going to basically just examine the ways men behave in these things, and in which men are told to behave, in which they are directed to behave in that thing. But I don't think you do have to take into account the institutions and statements which are made about pornography and whatnot in order to do it. I don't think you need to do that. I think that's incorrect. Simply because how many people, when they're consuming pornography, are aware of the fact that they're watching... I mean, obviously you are aware of the fact that you're watching something filmed, but your suspension of disbelief allows you to move away from that. But I don't imagine that when people are consuming that media, that they are particularly thinking about, oh, I wonder how the supply line works to this. Like, oh, I wonder about the life of the people behind the cameras and what the catering crew was doing at the time. You know, I don't think that that is a thing that people are actively thinking about when they're consuming those pieces of media. It's not a thing. How many more pages does this bullshit have left? Well, what are we on? 4? I think there's another 8 or 9, something like that. Hopefully they're going to go quicker, though, because this person's actively going to be talking about the pornography that they've been consuming now. But equally, they're probably going to be peppering it with more of the postmodern bullshit language, which is going to be taking longer for us to look through then. It's going to be longer to decode the nonsense, as it were. What is this about? Someone's asking. Oh boy, you've missed a show so far. What we're doing, we're talking about homosexual pornography and its place as media consumed by people and made by people who are HIV positive, and its place in society, and how there are people for whom sexual diseases are considered an erotic fetish. Basically, that's kind of this thing in a nutshell so far. It's kind of bad. there's a lot of postmodern jargon and woo going on here. Also, things are getting a little bit dark because it's getting late here, so I'm going to go and turn a light on very quickly, and then I shall return. Right. There we go. We don't want to get the eye strain from staring at the screens in the dark and all of that stuff. So, released in 2014, as someone in chat is actually talking about the fluffer, it's like, how many people actually think about fluffers, you know, when you're watching pornography or something like that? Like, how many people are sitting there thinking, God, the poor people that have to help those guys get an erection on cue. God, that must be a terrible job. Like, are you really thinking that when you're watching someone get railed in pornography? Probably not, let's be honest. It's not something that probably goes on in your mind there. You're definitely not thinking about the ridiculous amount of chemical stimulants that those people are on in order to maintain things like that. Yes, the dark side of pornography and whatnot. Yes, the amount of Viagra that those guys have to chug back in order to try and maintain an erection for like 12 hours, or whatever ridiculous time frames it is that they work on. So, released in 2014, Viral Loads gathered media attention for its eroticization of HIV transmission. Okay, so this is the important part here where we're on to the bug chasers. So, the media that this guy likes to watch involves HIV-positive actors sodomizing each other, and now he needs to justify his fetish. So, its title refers both to the technical term used to name the number of viral particles in a milliliter of HIV-positive blood, and to the usage of the word load among barebackers as another name for ejaculate. Hey, so viral loads, it was an intentional play for HIV-positive semen. There we go. I'm sure this author must feel very proud of themselves for coming up with that pun. So viral loads thus not only promises to show us men sharing their loads with one another, but it also wants us to know, or at least to believe, that such loads are viral, and alongside semen they also carry HIV. Wow, thank you for making that bit clear. You see, they over-explain this pun. Now again, chat, let's go back a little bit. Were there any over-simplified explanations for what all of this shit was? No. There wasn't. This shit was an impenetrable wall of complete and utter bollocks. But when it comes down to the term viral loads and how this is a double entendre, both for the HIV virus and for load as a slang term for ejaculate, but notice what lengths this person went to explain their pun. The length that this author went to explain their pun is more length than they went to explain the obscurantist woo that they were spouting for the previous paragraphs. Like, where was this level of really, like, hey, I'm going to explain what I've just said in a really simple manner. Oh, you can't do it for the obscurantist nonsense bit, but you are going to do it. But you are going to do it to explain your really funny pun, and why your pun is really, really funny. God damn it! It's just because humor's difficult for leftists to grasp. Very possibly, it wouldn't surprise me actually. The film opens to the sound of a storm and a rotating world globe with the words TIM Global written on it, followed by TIM's pirate-like logo on a black and white skull above two crossed swords. This is not necessary to analysing the text that you're going to analyse. Okay, you don't need to... Like, if I was writing a book review, I wouldn't write about the cover of the book. I wouldn't be like, oh, I open the leather-bound volume, the leather-bound tome. It has a very nice finish with the gold gilt lettering on the front. Like, it's not necessary. Review the contents. Come on, let's go with this. Above two crossed swords, yes, crossed swords, I'm sure that's what they are. It's totally not a Totally not a euphemism there at all. So once the sound changes to a meditative electronic drone, a variation of TIM's logo appears on screen. Here the skull is metamorphosized into the head of a jester through the addition of a four-pointed hat reminiscent of the motley attire of medieval and Renaissance court entertainers. The insignia is completed by the Latin words below, Occare serio et studiosissimi ludere, or to jest is seriousness, and to play is the greatest earnest, written in a thick serif typeface around the jester's skull. The whole thing conveys the overall impression of being a powerful sigil, one that suddenly comes alive when the skull's eyes light up in bright red. You don't need to be talking about this, okay? If you're going to be talking about... If you're talking about the implications of a piece of media, you need to just explain the key points of the media and how they relate to the points that you want to make, or how or why you think there is some greater political meaning to it, or something like that. You don't need to write about, oh, this was the film studio's logo, and it looked like this. It's great. You don't need to be doing this. What? This is just, I watched a porn video and need to turn it into a research paper, isn't it? But you don't need this part of the paper. They wrote a paragraph instead of inserting a GIF. Quite right. What word count did this guy have to hit? Yeah. Remember, this is word count nonsense here. But again, chat, notice the description that he's putting in here. Notice the simplicity that they're writing with and how this is easy enough to understand, and compare it to the bollocks that they were talking about with the, what was it, pharmacopornographic regimen, or whatever it was up there. Again, it's two different writing styles. It's when they're saying nothing, they use all of these big words and really obscurantist language, but when they're talking about stuff which is actually like quite objectively provable or objectively demonstrable, suddenly the language becomes really, really clear and easy to understand. It's so amazing to me, the difference between those two things. So this paper is actually quite informative when it comes to that stuff there. So before discussing its scenes, it's worth reflecting on the unique presence of this symbol, both at the start of Viral Loads and on the front cover of its DVD release. My god, they're actually going to talk about the cover. They're actually going to judge the cover of the DVD and tell us all about judging the cover of the DVD, as opposed to telling us about the media and then what they think is the greater meaning of HIV when it comes to gay sex. It's... really? My god, this is awful. Okay, so it sets Viral Loads apart from all other TIM productions, as the latter only uses the regular TIM logo, and unless they are thematic compilations of existing scenes, always have production shots on their front covers. The Viral Loads insignia and its usage as the single image of the front DVD cover thus frame this particular porn text as a standout item in TIM's catalogue. Well, I'm glad that this person is intimately familiar with all of TIM's DVDs. That's great. I'm pleased that you have perused enough pornographic DVD covers to know that this cover is different. Are you sure it wasn't a limited edition cover or something like that? We need to cover all of the bases here. Oh god, this is just awful. Okay, let's see if they're gonna talk a little bit more about this. So, Lacare serio, yes, we know. It's the phrase of the thing. You already said it. It's associated with Mauricio Vicini of 1496, commentary on Plato's Parmenides, appearing at the start of Ficino's preface to the work, and phrase concludes its opening sentence as follows: "It was the custom of Pythagoras, Socrates, and Plato to conceal divine mysteries everywhere beneath figures and veils, to modestly dissimulate their wisdom, in contrast to the sophists. Arrogance to jest in seriousness, and to play in the greatest of earnests." Like, does this person realize that they are being an absolute sophist when it came to all of this bullshit up here? Do they not realize the difference, the sweet irony of this? Oh, I don't think that they do. But let's see if they can actually go a little deeper into this. Let's see if they can actually start talking about the stuff that they're supposed to be talking about. So, discussed by Renaissance scholars, this passage has been read as an example of how, for Ficino, philosophical wit has been used by Socrates to conceal and protect the higher truths of ancient theology from those who were considered undeserving of them. Ficino's aim was to highlight a certain gladness of spirit that was, in his view, the proper prerequisite for serious philosophizing, a refined but hedonistic vitality that would naturally lead to a quickness and profundity of thought. Why are you telling me about the... What's the phrase that I'm looking for here? The tagline of the video, what's the phrase? The commercial... I can't think of what it's called, but the commercial phrase that companies have, that it's like, oh, this is the phrase that our company is associated with. This is like, it's not a mission statement, but it's like their advertising slogan or something like that. Why are you telling me about the advertising slogan of this studio? That has nothing to do with you analysing the piece of pornography that you want to analyse and the effects or the interaction with HIV or something like that. Like, this is not... This has nothing to do with it. Slogan. Yeah, I think it's slogan, chat. Slogan or catchphrase. Motto. Yeah, it's like slogan or motto. But yeah, companies have those. Why is this person analysing the motto of the company rather than the text? Like, this is all useless. This does not need to be here. This does not need to be here. None of this is relevant. So the allusion to Finito's Neoplatism... Okay, don't care. Willfully take up the new role of... Don't care. I'm just going to skip the part where they analyse the fucking motto of a company through the intertextuality of the insignia, which is decided... Don't care. He invites us to look beneath the veil of pornography and its depiction of sex to see... No, they don't. No. Morris's allusion to the Neoplatism and the figure of the jester, the thing, complicates pornographers' early views of the documentary nature by hinting that viral loads is an exercise in philosophical wit. Morris seems to willfully take up the new role, that is, of the wise fool, no longer embracing pornographic text simply as a truth recording. He hints at figures of rhetoric. No! Oh, reading too much into things. The paper. Oh my god, fuck off. No. Okay, so... This person, this Morris person, who earlier said, oh, our pornography isn't just pornography, it's a documentarian view of sexual encounters and things like that. And then this person is like, oh, but the logo that you use on the DVD is that of a jester, which clearly means that the DVD is a joke. It's not something to be taken seriously, and therefore, because the Jester logo was present on this thing, that means that his statement previously must be a lie or something. Because no. I'm quite impressed that you were able to identify that was a spoon, chat. But yes, I am throwing spoons with the anger of my mind. No, this is bullshit. Okay, so this is because the company's logo is a jester. That means that everything that the person said about the company is a lie, because jesters are funny. This is bullshit. This is yeah, pretentious student essay. The thing is, this isn't a student essay. This is actually a properly written, peer-reviewed piece of nonsense. But this is bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. We know it's a spoon because you're British. It's true. I'm only allowed to own spoons. I'm not allowed to have knives. So it must be a spoon, chat. It's true. Did you know, chat, this is my illegal spoon. I do not possess a license for this spoon, chat. It's terrible. But yeah, this is a peer-reviewed thing of a guy basically saying that someone's previous statements are invalidated because something in a film is a visual image associated with things which are funny. That's bullshit. This is SJW tier, you told a joke that one time, that means nothing you say can ever be serious ever. You know, it's bullshit. Like, you know that's what SJWs do. Like, you've seen them on Twitter and whatnot. Like, they'll take a joke that someone said something once on Twitter, and then they'll be like, oh, look at this joke, and then they'll get really offended about it. But then they'll also use the fact that someone told a joke that one time as a means of discrediting them as being a serious thinker or something like that. Like, I've literally even had social justice warriors say about my work, like, what was it? Say something along the lines of serious responses to things or jokes, you can't do both. And just, you can't do both was written all in text marks, all in capitals. It's very telling, but yeah, this is nonsense. This is absurd. Just because someone told a joke that one time, that means they can't do anything serious? No, that's silly. The fact that someone said something serious that one time, and the product that they were talking about features a visual image which is associated with humour, instantly means that person was wrong or was misleading you. No. Nonsense. Complete and utter no. Just silly. That's just silly. This is just silly. Everything about this is just wrong. Okay, so through the intertextuality of the insignia with which he decided to open virality, he invites us to look beneath the veil of pornography as the thing and seek the kinds of thinking may be hiding there. No, he doesn't. The fact that they use a jester as their company logo is not a sign that you need to think about the deeper layers of pornography or anything like that. I mean, you might as well say that because my YouTube channel has a logo that is a deer, I am, in every single one of my videos, I am in fact inviting people to consider the environmental impacts of climate change and the effects that it'll have on wildlife. Like, you might as well say something like that, even when the video content has nothing to do with that. You might as well just say, like, oh, well, this is the logo that you've got on it, so clearly this is what you're inviting people to do. No, please stop. Not only that, but in requiring us to decipher that symbol, the pornographer as jester appears to be asking us to prove how deserving we are of all of the hidden knowledge he will have buried in his work, as he puts it in his interview with Vice following the release of the... My God. When people see a film logo, then they don't try to decode the meaning of the film logo. Okay, like when someone sees the MGM lion roaring, they're not thinking, oh, that's a lion and it's roaring, it's the king of the jungle, therefore we are expected to believe that the media that we are about to consume is somehow related to royalty and that therefore they are treating us as if we are royalty because they have presented us with a symbol of royalty and therefore they are elevating us to the highest echelons as their customers, thus showing that they value us, right? I could make an argument like that. It would be complete and utter nonsense. It would be completely wrong as well, because you don't know that. But it's a logo. Like, you don't have to decipher it and then put a load of hidden knowledge behind all of this. That's not what... No. Just no. No. No! That's all I can say. It's just no. Like, it's just silly. No, I can't get over this. You're using the existence of a studio logo to infer that they are somehow giving Illuminati-level signals to their consumer base. That this is just silly. The point of this is the guy talking about his viral loads again. The point of viral loads was for those people to whom it would make sense to look at it, say it, own it, and fucking move on. Fucking move on. In 20 years, there will be references to HIV, and young gay men will astonish and horrify people who are now in their 20s when they say, "What the fuck are you talking about?" No, honestly, I think this phrase, "What the fuck are you talking about?" should also be aimed at the author of this. This is just... No, it's just silly. It's just silly. With this statement, Morris hints at the double standards of viral loads as both a pornographic text and some sort of manifesto for a post-AIDS future. For him, eroticizing HIV and fantasizing about its transmission appears to be a means to foreground the structures that discipline our bodies and our pleasures. While doing so, he invites us to liberate and transform ourselves by staying true to what we desire. He who makes a beast of himself removes the pain of being human, claims the epigraph attributed to Samuel Johnson that appears on screen right after the jester symbol. So with that statement, Morris hints at the double standards of viral loads as the... Okay, yeah, we've covered that. The author of this paper believes that just because someone said something that one time and there is a visual somewhere else, that means that one invalidates the other, which is not true. While doing so, he invites us to liberate and transform ourselves by staying true to what he describes as he who makes a beast of himself removes the pain of being human. I'm trying to work that through. He who makes a beast of himself removes pain. No. Again, it's for him eroticizing HIV and fantasies about it as a means to foreground the structures that discipline our bodies and our pleasures. While doing so, he invites us to liberate ourselves. No. Just no. 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 I'm just going to say no to that. No. So, Morris's allusion to figures of rhetoric, the way in which he discussed viral loads, and his uncharacteristic use of an epigraph at the start of the text all complicate its reading. They add to the known difficulties in clearly defining pornography as a genre, whether through its content, its aesthetics, its politics, or what may be seen as its primary use, sexual gratification. Further added to its intertextual complexity, Morris's promotional text for viral loads is rather opaque. Man sex is a virus, one that uses man as its host. Some try to resist it, others embrace it as the source of life and meaning. We live to breed the sex virus, to pass it on to every random anonymous dude we meet and fuck. It's how we reproduce man. We shoot viral loads every time. Our jizz ain't for making babies. Our sex spreads like wildfire, squirting out of one man's dick, shooting deep into another man, then another, and another. Join in, buddy. You'll never look back. Okay, so they are going on to eroticize the HIV here, because that's what they do. Man sex is a virus, one that uses men as its hosts. Homosexual sex is not a virus. I mean, I know that they are trying to tie the two together because of the erotic angle here, but that's just silly. Okay, so I guess we're gonna go and see what this author asserts is the meaning of this statement. But again, I don't see how this is complicating anything. Again, the existence of a studio logo does not change how you feel about watching a film or reading a book or something. Like it does, that doesn't change it. So that is not complicating things. What this person is saying here is not complicating things further at all. You're reading too much into it. So what is being said here? If, as the title implies, viral loads is about the eroticization of HIV transmission, why does Morris not name the actual virus? Instead of equating man sex with virus by using the compound noun sex virus, he allows multiple ways of decoding the text, including the one whereby it is not HIV but masculine sex itself that spreads like wildfire and reproduces without babies. Interestingly, if we take up that reading, Morris's wise fool rhetoric starts unfolding in sharp contrast to the antisocial positions that have gained momentum in queer scholarship in the past decade. Okay, this wise fool rhetoric is something which the author has pulled out of their arse, based on the existence of a company logo and nothing more. So this is nonsense. I can just write this off instantly as being complete and utter bullshit. Why did he not name specifically HIV here? Probably because when it comes to bug chasers, they are and the sexual fetish of acquiring sexually spread diseases, it's any disease is the fantasy. It's not necessarily HIV. So in not naming HIV, I would imagine that they are expanding the potential audience for the fetish. I would imagine that would be a reason for it, but anything that involves people eroticizing STDs, I think, is pretty fucked up. But yeah, that would probably be why HIV is not specifically named there, because they want to get as much of an audience as possible. Calling for an embrace of negativity and the death drive, queer scholars like Lee Edelman have rejected politics on the grounds that all political projects, being future-oriented, necessarily inhabit heteronormative forms of temporality. They require heterosexual reproduction and depend on the figure of the child to whom the future is seen to belong. I guess you could say that Lee Edelman has said that politics depends on the child. Politics depends on the child, chat. Did you know that? Politics when it comes to sex, it really depends on the child. Yeah, apparently it actually does. Confirmed by feminist queer academia. The politics and sex does indeed depend on the child, apparently. Good lord. Okay, so you reject politics on the grounds that all political projects require some degree of looking forward. That's not true. Politics can be concerned with things that have happened in the past and changing a direction of things that have happened in the past. They can work on changing things in your lifetime with no forethought to your children or anyone else's children. Like, that's not necessary at all. So, nope, this is just, again, wrong. Complete nonsense there. Politics doesn't have to be thinking about future generations. I think it would actually be good if politics and politicians did concern themselves with the future of their actions in the long term over decades or centuries, as opposed to simply what's going to get us another 4 years, because that tends to lead to lots of short-term goals which may be detrimental to longer-term goals which would have better impacts or better outcomes. But yeah, no, it does not depend on the child. Please stop saying that. It makes you sound very, very silly. So against such antisocial or anti-relational stances, Morris's earlier quote alludes to an alternative way in which the future may still be thought through queer forms of relationality. In what I read as a rejection of Edelman's reduction of queerness to the death drive, Morris calls for the creation of a new future-oriented forms of queer communion fueled by man-sex spread like wildfire and jizz that is not used for making babies. Here, just like in his interview with Parsonen, Morris appears to be claiming that his is a business which takes up a hedonistic presence in order to fashion new queer communal futures. So in other words, we bring hedonists together. Okay, great, yes, you bond with other people who have the same hedonistic desires that you have. There's no real surprise, I would imagine, in the fact that people who have interests in certain pornographies and certain personality traits, they do actually cluster. There is actually some interesting papers looking at that. So yes, personality traits and the media that they consume do cluster to a certain degree. So yep, there is the potential for some sort of communality there, if you wanted to phrase it that way. But the idea that he's calling for a future-oriented queer communion, no, it's just gay. It's just gay shit. You're basically just saying you want gay people to get together and do gay stuff. There's really nothing beyond that. It's just, I want a giant gay man orgy. That's all it is. Feel free to take that out of context, chat, if you want to take that as a quote. It is hilarious to use in that way. But yeah, no. Again, think you're still reading into things a little bit too much here. So, with that in mind, I would now like to turn to the actual scenes which make up the pornographic text. Here we go. He's finally going to tell us all about the porn and not the logo of the studio, which they're then going to expound upon for fucking paragraphs. So with that in mind, you're going to turn to the actual scenes. Viral Loads is comprised of 9 different scenes presented as chapters, each numbered and introduced by its title on screen, followed by 2 bonus sequences. Through the numbering of each chapter, Viral Loads is given some degree of formal unity. That unity is strengthened by the fact that scenes 1, 2, and 3, as well as the first bonus sequence, construct a singular narrative centered on Blue Bailey, whom the press pack describes as an uber whore. It is in this narrative that I would like to focus, given its importance to the overall cohesion of the text. This person really does actually watch porn for the plot. That's amazing. I thought I was the only one. But yeah, no, apparently this guy actually watches it for the story elements. He's really invested in this one character. So we're going to talk about this one character. It's very important here. But good, he's talking about this thing, and maybe he's actually going to try and connect it to the Pozzed, Gay Loads, and the Homosex. Let's see if they can actually link all of these things together. Scene 1, Adult Bookstore Basement Fuck, is a one-to-one sexual encounter in which Bailey is fucked raw and rough by Stephen Richards, whom Bailey addresses as Sir. I would just like to point out here, this is a peer-reviewed academic paper, made its way into the Journal of Porn Studies, making use of the term fucked raw and rough. This is an academic term now. I'm going to make sure that I try and use this as much as possible. It is structured around a progression from oral sex to anal and back to oral, with the camera moving mostly between close-ups of penetration and close-ups of Bailey's face as he moans and grunts. The seeming roughness of the scene becomes complicated when Richards asks Bailey, "You all good, yeah? Is it okay?" A series of questions that are also subtitled, hinting at the care that underlies the fantasy of submission. Eventually, the top ejaculates with a compromise money shot, but the scene does not end there. Instead, it temporarily is expanded, with Richards continuing to fuck Bailey until the latter also ejaculates while rimming the former. Richards then collects Bailey's cum with his hand and feeds it to him. The scene culminates with Richards, the top, calling Bailey, the bottom, a good boy, and a passionate kiss sharing Bailey's cum. Oh my good lord. I actually just read that, and I feel stupider for doing so. But on the plus side, we've got consent going on throughout this. Look at this. We have verbal affirmative consent in pornography. Turns out that people could learn a lot when it comes to gay porn. Obviously, you've got to have that repeated verbal affirmation there. I just love that. It's just, oh, these things are subtitled. Okay, well, did you turn the subtitles on or off? Like, if you turn the subtitles on, then of course it's subtitled. Are the subtitles on by default? Because if they are, then which I find very unlikely, frankly. But if you've just turned those on, then I think you're reading too much into the fact that there are subtitles. Subtitles don't hint at the care that underline the fantasy of submission. That would just be asking some of the questions, but that's normal in any relationship that involves domination and submission. Oh God, this hurts my brain. Someone's butthole hurts just from listening. I'm not surprised. This is the connection between text and sex. Yes, it is. But yeah, we've got a description of this here. Okay, can we now talk about how or why sexually transmitted diseases are relevant to this? No, we can't, because we've got to go on to scene 2. The following scene, Blue's glory hole dessert. I'm going to put this spoon down now. I don't want to pick that spoon up ever again, because just the term. But I also need to hold on to this so that I can stab someone who comes in through the door, like the author of this paper. I need to hold on to my weapon here. Is preceded by the text, 20 minutes later. Before leaving the bookstore, Blue needed the taste of more cock. As the title suggests, this is a scene of oral sex at a glory hole, one in which the camera maintains a continuous close-up of Bailey's face as he sucks an anonymous man to completion, only to then lick the drops of cum that fall on the floor. Despite the close-up shot, the reverberation of the ambient sound helps to spatialize the scene in a much wider room where other men are heard moaning and coughing in the distance. Oh, God. Okay. Right. Yep, that's fine. Okay, we have a description of the scene. That's fine. Okay, I'm guessing this person is just going to have to talk about all of the scenes, and then they're going to explain where the link will be. But okay, let's see. Both scenes, 1 and 2, lead up to a third scene, Blues Man Worship Gangbang, described in the promotional text as having come about when, the day following the shoot in the adult bookstore, Bailey approached Morris saying he wanted some kind of man worship initiation. The resulting scene is one in which Bailey is fucked bareback by a large number of men. However, while the previous 2 scenes progressed in a linear narrative fashion, scene 3 starts with its ending. It opens with a close-up of a pig hole inserted in Bailey's rectum and another man's hand with most of his fingers inside it. Okay, the close-up cross-dissolves to a bedroom where Bailey is in bed on his fours, sucking one man and surrounded by several others. The camera cuts to one of the other men walking towards the foreground with a jar full of white, creamy content, which he extracts with a large pipette and inserts into Bailey's rectum through the opening of the pig hole. "Fuck yeah, fill it up, keep going, drink it up," can be heard uttered in the background under an echoing sound effect. Oh God, this... Why? Why is this a thing? Okay, but this is the part where I vomit in disgust. But okay, so remember, remember, chat. Humans are donuts. Humans are donut shaped. Remember that, chat. Okay, but yes, this is where the this is where presumably the sexual transmitted diseases are coming in here. Even though this has not been mentioned, the author hasn't mentioned as it being referenced in any of the dialogue thus far, but maybe this is a thing that's going to come up later. You never know. I'm really waiting for them to make the connection here. I really don't want to keep doing this, but I'm going to. Okay. After this sequence, a jump cut is applied and signalled by the text 1 hour earlier, starting with a slow-motion scene set to electronic music in which Bailey is seen kissing one man. We learned that the scene actually kicked off with Bailey being gang-fucked while various men kissed and masturbated each other in the background, waiting for their turn with him. As an increasing number of men fucking ejaculate inside him, cum is seen dripping out of Bailey's anus, only to be licked and eaten by Max X, a model whose only role seems to be making sure no cum is wasted. There is a strong sense of relentless giving and exchanging here. The relentlessness is heightened by the apparent consecutive, quote, loads, end quote, that some men are seen depositing inside Bailey, often captioned by subtitles like Tom's second load or Logan's third load, and by the almost immediate transfer of the loads out of Bailey's rectum into Max X's mouth. Why is this this is academia, ladies and gentlemen, in 2018. I want you to know where your tax money is going to and what it's paying for. Here you go. This is where all of this is going for. The scene eventually leads to the closing jar sequence that we have already witnessed. My cat is shouting at me now, even she wants it to stop. I know, you want it to be over. I also want it to be over. But it's not going to be. It'll never end. Okay, so... Right. Okay, yep. Okay, so we've got a lot of focus here on the ejaculated material. Start linking it to the concept of the diseases and why these diseases matter. Okay, come on, make the connection here, because currently I'm just reading a load of gay shit, and I really don't want to be reading this gay shit. The scene eventually leads to the closing jar thing sequence that we have already witnessed. In this iteration, however, the words "pause cum" can be read on the lid of the jar before its contents are injected into Bailey's rectum, a clear attempt at circumventing the invisibility of HIV itself. As Dean noted in his discussion of bareback porn, this second appearance of the jar sequence is also accompanied by a slowdown of the footage and the introduction of an electronic drone sound. The scene closes with Bailey and Max X kissing cum off each other's mouths, followed by a headshot of Bailey smiling as laughter is heard echoing in the background. Okay. Yep, we're gonna keep going with this, apparently. I want to make the link here, okay? We get it. There is a lot of the paused loads. The neg hole has been paused. The viral loads have been deployed. I want you to now make the link. Just stop telling me about the gay shit that you watch. Okay? Gods above, it's the academic version of 50 Shades of Grey. Oh, this is worse. This is worse. Remember, this shit got peer-reviewed. Good lord. Okay. Interestingly, it is not until the bonus features that the whole narrative becomes complete, again by making use of yet another jump cut. It is only then, after 6 other unrelated scenes, that we are eventually shown cum being collected to fill the jar introduced in Scene 3. Making use of an uncharacteristic 3x3 split screen, we see 9 men sat on chairs, filmed only from their necks down, masturbating into the jar, adding their contribution to what, according to the press pack, were 200 Pozzed loads. Just as the words "Pozzed cum" were deployed to overcome the invisibility of HIV, anonymity functions here in much the same way to strengthen the effective change of the fantasy. By not showing the faces of the men in this last sequence, Morris intensifies the aesthetics of transgression pursued by viral loads. Considering that the vast majority of TIM models are clearly recognisable by their faces and listed on its online roster, Morris's decision to play with anonymity in this instance further contributes to the reality effect of the porn text. Particularly so given that the scene was filmed in a legal context that still allows prosecution for conscious exposure to or transmission of HIV. Invisibility and anonymity of absences, denoting presence, strengthen the reality effect of HIV infections in viral loads. No, it doesn't. Okay, so the thing is here, as they've pointed out here, exposure to and transmission, or knowingly exposing people to these things, hits a sort of legal grey area. In some cases it's just illegal, in others it's not. But normally knowingly doing it comes with some legal ramifications. So the idea that the anonymity here is in some way to protect them is silly. What else did they say here? Decision to play with anonymity further contributes to the reality effect. I would have to ask how, but first of all, but I'm just going to say no. How on earth would not seeing someone's face make pornography appear more real? Well, the answer is that it doesn't. When you have sex in reality, you can view the face of your partner. You can't view your own face unless you have a mirror. Maybe that's what they're going for here, the reality effect of not being able to see your own face. But since you're looking at other people and not seeing their faces, no, that is taking away from the reality effect that it would have there. No. That's just silly. No. Why are we still here just to suffer? Asked the chat. Yeah, you're here. You missed the plot. There's a glory hole. It's true, chat. There was a glory hole in the plot of the film, but in this part there is not a glory hole. It's just people masturbating into a jar. Now, you could, I suppose, argue, is this supposed to be a fantasy scene in which, what was his name, Blue, is like not aware of people's faces or something like that, and that is his fantasy or something along those lines. But generally, when people want to fantasize about people, there'll generally be a whole person there, usually a face included or something along those lines. So I just still find it weird. It just seems like it just seems like it's the wrong way around. Like, if you want to be talking about a reality effect here, it doesn't seem like that's adding to it. If anything, the fact that it is a piece of pornography, it is fantasy by definition, and that as such, that would still not make it more realistic. So no. And also, like I said, given everything that we said earlier about the difference between fantasy and reality and how people know the difference between fantasy and reality, I don't think that contributes to it at all. So I think this person is wrong when they said that. So, considering that none of the actual sex scenes depicted are fundamentally different from most other scenes in TMI's catalogue, the controversy surrounding viral loads is not just the result of the sex we see, but rather of its style and the sophisticated way in which Morris, the witty jester, stop filleting yourself about that ridiculous connection that you made. You made that connection. That connection is nowhere else. It is a company logo, that's it. Okay, stop putting this in. You've not established it as truth. This is something you have asserted. It's literally just something that you pulled out of your arse. Stop sucking your own dick about it in your own paper. So makes use of an intertextuality to play with presence and absence, visibility and invisibility. By doing so, he alludes to what Linda Williams describes as the perpetual push and pull between on-scenity and obscenity as a part of the neoliberal dilemma of an ever-expanding market for all sorts of sexual representations. The push and pull between on-scenity and obscenity is part of the neoliberal dilemma of an ever-expanding market for all sorts of sexual representations. I don't think it's a dilemma at all. You're talking about the neoliberal expanding market for these things. Well, in a society such as that, where it's basically, hey, people can do what they want, individuality establishes all things like this, people would be allowed to seek out what kind of things it is that they desire. So, in that sense, the sexual representation of people with sexual diseases is something that has a market for it, and in a neoliberal paradigm like that, that market would be allowed to exist, and in this instance it would be allowed to expand and contract as market desire allows. So I don't see this as being a dilemma or not. It is what it is. It's not necessarily a dilemma, it's just a phenomenon that follows some sort of pattern, be it expansion or shrinking. So, again, don't really think that that's a thing, and also I don't think that this witty gesture nonsense that you're putting in here, again, that's still not a thing, but intertext to play with the presence and absence, visibility and invisibility, only insofar as via a process of really bad writing, they literally label the plot device. Like, that is actually really bad writing. I mean, this would be like someone finding, I don't know, some film or something in which someone finds a CD or a hard drive or something, and it's got written on the outside, literally the most important thing in the universe that will allow you to do something. It's literally the thing that is labeled, like, the plot device is labeled as the plot device. Like, that's actually a sign of really bad writing, where you have to literally spell out what something is. In this case, by fucking labeling it. That's kind of a sign of bad writing, if anything else. So the idea that it's like, oh, it's a sophisticated intertextuality play on the visibility and invisibility. No, that's actually a sign of bad writing. That's my objection, bad writing. It's one of my objections. I have several objections to this, but it's the MacGuffin, the clan of lazy writing. Yes, the writer of these scenes literally labeled the MacGuffin as the MacGuffin. Like, he didn't actually, like, there was no actual plot sequence that could explain the possibility of sexually transmitted diseases outside of literally labeling it. That's actually a sign of really, really bad writing, so why this author is trying to put this off as if it's some sort of grand, amazing thing is ridiculous. It's like, no, that's bad writing. What you're doing, you are justifying bad writing and trying to claim that it's something brilliant. You know what? I gotta wonder, did the author of this paper also try and defend The Last Jedi as well? It's like, oh, you just don't get it because you're just too dumb. It's brilliant and you're just too stupid to know it. Like, it's gonna be the same fucking defense, isn't it? It's you're just too stupid to get the thing. It's brilliant and you're just too dumb to understand why, but I understand. It's no, you literally labeled the MacGuffin. Stop doing that. It's stupid. I can't believe I'm now complaining about the writing quality in the plot of adult films. That's really ridiculous. But it's just because this guy is saying that it's some really sophisticated way of playing with the concept of presence and absence. No, you literally labeled the plot device. That's bad writing. But it had to be there in order to establish the fetish for the audience, I guess, because they couldn't bother trying to get some sort of other way of writing it into the scenes or something like that. It's true, chat, The Last Jedi did not have enough gay sex. But you know what film did have enough gay sex? Solo. That had a shower scene with Solo and the Wookiee. I mean, that was a prime opportunity for some proper hard gay sex. And I guarantee you that in the porn parody, which is inevitably going to be made of it, that shower scene will feature gay sex. So yes, that's a thing. That is a thing. So there you go, Solo had a shower scene. Probably had some gay sex in it as well. And that's why Solo was better than The Last Jedi. Even though Solo was fucking terrible, as was The Last Jedi, because they both had terrible writing and plot points that made no sense. And oh, the dice, look at the dice! The dice are really important. No, they're not. No one cares about the fucking dice. You wrote that in for no reason whatsoever. You're trying to make us think that it's important. The OT didn't think they were important. The Last Jedi tried to make them important. That people were touching these things that turned out to be a fucking illusion. I'm not going to talk about the... No, I'm done talking about Star Wars. We're not going to go on a Star Wars tangent. It's fucking awful. But yes, I can imagine that there's going to be The Lust Jedi. That's probably going to be a porn parody of that as well. And I would imagine that it will probably have better writing than The Last Jedi as well. Okay, let's continue on with what we're actually talking about here. We're going to stop shitting on the terrible Star Wars films. We're going to continue shitting on the Pozzed Pozzed viral loads, the Pozzed breeding of the viral loads in the Homosex and all of that other shit. It's fucking awful. Solo does sound like a masturbation porn movie. It is. It was. It so blatantly is. It will be. I guarantee you that there will be a pornography parody of it, and there will be a scene with that. Like I said, there's a shower scene. We've got the Pozzed Jedi. Who knows? That could be the thing. That could be the thing from the porn parody, The Lust Jedi. The Pozzed Jedi. And that can be the metaphor, for Luke Skywalker in The Lust Jedi. He can be Jake Skystrider, the Pozzed Jedi, who can't actually have sex with Gigolo Ren, because then he would be spreading his Pozzed loads and HIV, so instead he sends his astral projection to fuck Gigolo Ren on the salt planet in front of everyone, because that's how he keeps him safe from catching the gay properly. There you go, chat. I just wrote a better Star Wars film that's a pornographic parody than The Last Jedi. There we go. It's a thing. We did it, chat. We did it. We wrote a better porn parody than The Last Jedi. Fucking nailed it. Which is more than can be said for Luke Cumwalker. He didn't actually nail it. He just pretended to nail it really hard from across the galaxy. And then he died, fading in to a pool of jizz on a rock. Maybe that could be his thing, because he's Luke Cumwalker, the Pozzed Jedi. He can be living on an island surrounded by semen instead of water, and that's what it is. That's the Jedi temple in the thing, in the middle of a sea of HIV and AIDS infested jizz. There you go. We did it. Fucking did it, chat. Nailed it. I think I need to put my career as a narrator for the audiovisual thing on pornography on hold, and I need to go and start writing adult parodies of films. Just wait till you get to the part about the porgs, man. That's going to be great. When Chewie roasts and eats his first porg, nah. He's not going to be eating that thing. He's going to be doing something else with that roasted porg. You can imagine where that one's going to be going. Porgs, you roast them and they basically turn into dildos. It's going to be great. Alright. Telia, you're on a Star Wars tangent. I know, because they're just awful now. They're terrible. What are they doing? Just everything that you know and love is being destroyed in media at the moment. Like, anything that you liked as a kid is now currently being destroyed. Hollywood has no ideas anymore. They're just fucking stealing everything that they could remember from other people's childhoods. Because it's clear they never knew anything about these things, because they're just like, oh, we're gonna steal things from your childhoods and do them wrong. Because it's clear they don't know about it, because they... just by how they write the characters and everything, it's so bad. It's like, you weren't interested in this shit when you were a kid, were you? You were busy mocking people who were into this stuff. And I can tell that because you're reneging on every single writing choice that was made before this. And you so clearly have no fucking idea what made the originals good. And that's why you're fucking everything up and banking on nostalgia. Because you just can't do it because you don't know what you're doing. You're raping other people's childhoods, you're pozzing their neg holes, hitting people with those viral loads in the face, trying to get all of that money by banking on other people's nostalgia. Well, guess what? It's not working. I am fucking done watching sequels and remakes and shit like that. Yes, I'm done. I'm done giving them money, and you should be done giving them money as well. You don't fucking go and see that shit. Anyway. Yeah, many have actually stated they hated the original. Of course they hated the original. Because the original's really boring. It's two old men poking each other with sticks. In the new ones, there's lightsabers and there's flips, and it's awesome! Because more is better! You can't have well-developed characters anymore, can you? What is this? Character development? Motivation? Reasons for people wanting to do things? Fuck that. Special effects, explosions, epic sound score. That's it. That's what people like. That's what people want. That's what's going to get people in those seats. Yes, it does. And it makes people a fuckload of money, and it makes me sick. Not quite as sick as this paper is, though. So let's continue reading this, shall we? Before we get back to the tale of the Pozzed Jedi and Luke fucking cum guzzler. And his fucking astral projection to fuck Gigolo Ren in the arse so that he can keep him safe from the gay. It's very important, chat. Very important. Anyway, let's move on. In truth, effects become further disrupted by the realization that Blue Bailey was already living with HIV and with an undetectable viral load at the time the Poz cum scene was shot. Concealment, this time of the model's serostatus, is used again to benefit the fantasy, or, as Bailey himself put it, to hype the film up. Even if that was not the case, medical evidence suggests that the virus itself can only survive outside the human body in very specific conditions. That HIV transmission has not been reported as a consequence of contact with spillages of blood, semen, or other bodily fluids. Okay, so the guy was like, "Hey, I've got the HIV and the yay, and I make porn films. Woo, okay." Wonderful, and then that was used as a selling point because filthy degenerates who like to get off on that sort of stuff. So, to my mind, as the author, the viral loads offers beneath its play of artifice and reality is thus a rich text through which to think the ways of a post-AIDS, in which post-AIDS gay masculinities complicate modern understandings of the body and of the autonomous subject. My position here resonates both with Morris's manifested interest in human viral symbiosis, already discussed, and with Gregory Tomso's view that barebacking supplements masculine subjectivity through the acclimation of foreign matter in the body. It doesn't. That's just silly. No. It supplements your masculinity when you get a load of jizz in the arse. It's no, it just makes you gay. There's nothing deeper. There's no deeper meaning to that. We're not living in a post-AIDS world. Get over it. There is no such thing as post-AIDS. Apart from death. That's the only thing that follows it normally. Viral loads uses pornographic and narrative devices. Yes, really bad and obviously labelled narrative devices. both to reassert masculinity as ideal and to transform it. On the one hand, through heroically enduring relentless breeding, Bailey reiterates the norm of athletic masculinity. On the other, and as Byron Lee notes in relation to the masculinity of bareback bottoms, by reframing masculine athleticism as relentless bottoming, what was once an act of effeminacy is now seen as a masculine act. No one sees it as being manly to take a dick in the arse, okay? No. It is not. It's not a manly thing for a guy to take a cock up the poop chute, okay? No one is looking at that and thinking, damn, that's a manly man right there. It doesn't. No, that's not a thing that happens. It's not redefining anything for anyone. Some people like that, and that's fine. If that's what they want to do, you know, they can go for it. But we're not going to be looking at that and thinking, damn, son, that's what everyone in society should be emulating there. Right, that's what we need right there. We need more of that shit. Viral loads reproduces masculine ideals while nonetheless queering them through both the penetratability of Bailey's body and its radical porosity to foreign matter, its impurity. A human body is not porous like that. It is porous in the sense that it has pores and it can allow things in and out of like that, but the idea that it's like, oh, it's a radically porous because someone jizzes on you. No, what are you talking about? You are saying absolute nonsense here. Welcome to the postmodern nonsense of, well, feminist academia. It's like masculine ideals, that they're being queered. We're queering masculinity by watching guys get fucked in the arse. It's like, no, that's pretty damn queer. That shit's pretty fucking gay. That's about all you can say about it, really. There's no deeper subtext, there's no deeper meaning to it, or anything like that. This is the most pozzed shit I've ever read. How are your neg holes holding out, chat? How is everyone feeling? Do you feel like you've been suitably paused through the internet? Did you know that you can actually get AIDS over the internet, chat? Because, I mean, I think we've all just got AIDS over the chat. It is true, chat. Boners are linked to osteoporosis. Confirmed. Well, especially if you've got a penis bone, which humans don't, but could be confirmed. How much further have we got to go with this? It's only another couple of pages. Let's try and fucking get through this as quick as we can. This performance of masculinity, simultaneously athletic and impure, gains a particular relevance in the context of the biopolitics of highly active and antiretroviral therapy, administered as either treatment as prevention or pre-exposure and post-exposure prophylaxis. After all, as Blue Bailey noted, most HIV-positive TIM models live with undetectable viral loads thanks to successful heart regimens. Notwithstanding the fantasy of HIV transmission depicted in viral loads, the reality is that, thanks to heart, the bodies we see exchanging semen with one another are likely to exist outside the positive-negative binary upon which the sorrow conventions of eroticization would depend. No, it pretty much is a binary. You either have the virus or you do not have the virus. That's how it works. Just because you had it once and are in treatment, that it might be in remission or something like, or you've been able to get rid of it, that doesn't mean that you cease being in the positive or negative state. You either do or you do not. Like, that's it. Someone in chat, today is their birthday. Well, do you like your present? I'm giving you the gift. This is the gift over the internet. I mean, come on, what more could you want? Alright, let's keep going with this. I don't know why, but whenever I stream, my nose gets itchy. Why does this happen, chat? Doesn't happen, like, throughout the rest of the day. Like, I can be completely fine, and then something about streaming, and suddenly it's like, nose is just really itchy all of a sudden. Like, I don't fucking know, just throughout this entire thing. I think I'm just allergic to streaming. That's what it is. I'm allergic to YouTube and all of the bullshit that's on it. I'm possibly allergic to this fucking stream and this absolute bollocks that I'm reading. It's just... That's my allergy. He already left chat. Well, That's probably for the best. I mean, you wouldn't want anyone to get this, would you? Like, would you really want this? Like, on your birthday, this? Would you really want this? You have AIDS. I think I might actually have AIDS from reading this. You smell the bullshit on the paper. It's very possible. Whatever it is, it's just fucking awful. Maybe it's too much, that look of disgust, your upper lip curls up and your nose wrinkles and you're like, that's it. Yeah, but yeah, that's just awful, perhaps. But yeah, who knows? Who knows the reason for it? But let's continue on. Constituted as an elusive third term between positivity and negativity, undetectability at once increases the capacity of a body and subjects it to a relentless regime of control. In other words, while undetectability allows a queering of Bailey's masculinity through a relentless embrace of penetrability and porosity to foreign matter, the biopolitics of antiretroviral drugs reinscribes Bailey's subjectivity within the masculine norm as a heroic form of life, at once allowing it exposure to risk and chemically shielding it from risk. No, I want to try and work out what the fuck they're talking about here. So it's an elusive third term. Again, no, it isn't. You either have the virus or you do not have the virus. Undetectability allows a queering of Bailey's masculinity. Again, no, it's the way and manner in which you detect things like the AIDS virus, the HIV virus, that's not allowing some sort of queering of masculinity. It's you like a dick in the butt, you're pretty fucking gay. You like sticking your dick in the butt, you're pretty fucking gay. Okay, that there's nothing queering about this. It's just queer. Okay, you're just pretty fucking gay. You can be athletic and you can be fucking gay. You can be a fat slob and fucking gay. You can be a scrawny little faggot and be fucking gay. Okay, again, this is not queering anything. You're not... There's none of this extra baggage attached to it. Okay? It's just all pretty fucking gay. It is in the context of such post-human becoming... Oh, here we go. This is what feminists love to do. We're getting the concept of becoming in now. That is, of course, the idea that knowledge is created, that it's not a thing that just is. There is no objective, yes, this is what it is. Knowledge is something that is created, and when you are created the knowledge, you are becoming of the new thing. When you learn something new, you experience the becoming, and you become into a different person or a different identity or a different thing than you were before. So let's see what it is with this post-human becoming. One in which the affordances of flesh, desire, and pleasures are at once increased by foreign matter and semiotic chains and recaptured by biopolitical economies. That viral loads can read as a kind of jester's wit. You are the one who made that connection, no one else has done that, please stop using it. A pornographic fantasy that alludes to important changes in how gay male subjectivities are embodied. Oh, God, let's try and understand this shit. Okay. Post-human becoming, one in which the affordances of flesh, desire, and pleasure are at once increased by foreign matter and semiotic chains, and recaptured by biopolitical economies. So, basically, gay people like getting fucked in the arse, and gay people like watching people get fucked in the arse, because that's what the biopolitical economies is. That's the biopolitical neoliberal economy where, because a pornography market exists, people can buy things from it, and that therefore helps determine the market value of it, because there are weird fucking bug chasers out there, and that's a thing. So that's the biopolitical economy bit, and increased by foreign matter, basically, that's just the pleasure of foreign matter, that's just gay people like a dick in the arse, okay, great. The viral loads can be read as a kind of jester's wit, a pornographic fantasy that alludes to important changes in how gay and more subjectivities are embodied. It doesn't do anything of the sort. There are people who have that fetish, there are people who do not, and there are people who develop that fetish and then lose that fetish. Nothing there's nothing more to be said about that. Again, you're reading too much into it. Thanks to the techno-scientific developments that have been taking place since the 1990s, the masculinity performed in viral loads cannot be fully captured by earlier understandings of bodies as enclosed spaces. Instead, it is enacted by opening bodies to a seemingly endless number of loads. At the same time, however, those bodies remain protected as standing reserves of life by being chemically reconditioned with heart. Here we go. You gotta. They always love talking about this, like the opening of the bodies. Welcome. This is straight into anal theory here. This is full on anal theorist territory here. So I should probably don my anal theorist cap before we go into this. So the concept of viral loads, that is, masculinity performed in viral loads, cannot be captured by understandings of body as an enclosed space. So basically, the masculinity on display, or the masculine virtues that are on display in this film, cannot be understood using earlier models of medicine that prescribed the human body as some enclosed sacrosanct thing, which never happened. People have always been familiar with the fact that your body is affected by the environment and also affects the environment to certain degrees and in certain ways, so that was not really a thing. So you're kind of arguing against something that was never argued in the first place. Instead, it's enacted by opening bodies to a seemingly endless number of loads. Masculinity is enacted by taking a dick in the arse. No, it really isn't. Masculinity is just a set of traits which generally manifests in males. It is somewhat plastic to the environment as it has changed over time. The idea of enacting masculinity by taking a dick in the arse, no, it's not really a thing. You can do that without doing that, you can do that while doing it. It's just, again, this is not... You're kind of just saying nothing here. So at the same time, however, those bodies remain protected as a standing reserve of life by being chemically reconditioned with heart. Oh, good lord. Okay. Emerging at the biopolitical intersection of semiotic, chemical, and corporeal feedback loops, I see Bailey's masculinity as a toxic, pornographic subjectivity. Here we go. This is the part where they coin a term, because this is what all feminist and progressive academics like to do. They always like to coin a term in their paper. They always like to put something new in quote marks that they hope that is going to take off as being the thing. So toxic pornographic subjects used by this Preciado person being used again here. This is them. You're trying to, okay, this is the term. It's in quote marks. We're going to try and make it really big and get this term out there because that's important. Both his body and subjectivity emerge as liminal interfaces where strict distinctions between self and other collapse in a relentless circulation of images, meaning, and matter. Viral loads then poses some important questions concerning the relationship between subjectivity and communality, the one and the many. Okay, so basically, this is... Your body and subjectivity emerge as liminal interfaces where strict distinctions between self and others collapse into a relentless circulation of images, meaning, and matter. Okay, so basically, because the jism gets passed around a little bit, that means that your subjective experience about what it means to be you changes because of the fact that those things might carry a virus which might infect you, which therefore means the transmission of a virus changes your subjectivity of something like that, and concerning the relationship between subjectivity and community, the one and the many. And basically, it's a really fancy way of saying once you contract a disease, you can be categorized as person with that disease, and that therefore you become a part of a community, and that is just as valid as not being a part of that community. It's a really fancy way of saying fucking nothing, basically. As Kane Race notes, Hart reiterates the sovereignty of the neoliberal subject through self-administration. By self-administering antiretrovirals, gay men also actively administer themselves in what constitutes a devolution of biopolitical control from medical institutions to the self-monitoring individual and his personal acts of consumption and compliance. Notes Hart reiterates the sovereignty of the neoliberal subject through self-administration. No, it really doesn't. Reiterating the sovereignty of the neoliberal subject. No, you are sovereign in your own body at all times. You will always determine what is happening to your body unless you are either deemed unfit to do so or are actually unable to do so. So this, the existence of this treatment does not reiterate, it doesn't change the sovereignty of your body or of yourself in any way at all. As we've covered, the existence of the neoliberal market, which allows for basically anything to exist, allows people access to these things and allows them to basically buy the treatments. Okay, that's great. Again, that's not redefining anything about the individual. By self-administering antiretrovirals, gay men actively administer themselves in what constitutes a devolution of biopolitical control from medical institutions. Technically correct, insofar as it's basically, you take medication, that means a doctor doesn't have to give it to you. The devolution of biopolitical control from medical institutions. That's just a really fancy way of saying you have the power to take your own medication rather than having a doctor give you the medication every time. It's a really fancy, zhuzhed up way of just saying that, which is nonsense and frankly smacks of, I have a word count and also I need to sound really smart. So part of the wider privatisation of experience that characterises the neoliberal politics of self-care, Hart moved HIV away from the public sphere, where the politics of AIDS crisis had unfolded, and into the private bodies of individual, where life is regulated by self-administered and chemical prostheses. As a consequence, according to race, community, nostalgia developed among people who had been affected by AIDS, a certain sentimental hankering for the days of the crisis when politics were authentic and community pure. That fucking what? Okay, so part of the privatisation of the experience of healthcare, basically. It's basically the ability to take medication without a doctor having to administer it, stopped HIV from being such a public issue and basically became an issue of the individual. Again, you're massively obfuscating the meaning of what you're saying here. So basically it's people hanker for the days when they were the centre of attention. That's what this is. This entire fucking paragraph here, this entire fucking paragraph is basically now saying people can give themselves the treatment for this disease instead of needing a doctor to give them the treatment for this disease. And because of that, they are no longer the centre of attention. That's basically that paragraph in a nutshell. It's kinda bullshit. However, as both Race and Pressio also argue, the emergence of a new privatised self-managing biochemical theatre of biopolitical operations did not mark the end of queer communities and queer modes of futuring. What it did instead was to create the conditions for queerness and community to be differently thought and projected into the future through new forms of what Race describes as experimental and material engagements with the circumstances of life, or what Pressio calls a copyleft gender politics. The pirating of hormones, texts, body techniques, knowledge, practices, codes, pleasures, fluxes, chemical substances, cartographies. Fucking word salad, man. That is fucking nothing. What on earth are you trying to say here? The emergence of new private... Okay, so basically the ability to take your own fucking medicine didn't stop people from doing gay shit. What it instead did was allow gay shit to happen in a different way. That's kind of it. God, this is fucking garbage. What am I reading? Why am I reading? I don't even know. We're on to the final part here, the last parts. We're on to the part about communion. Finally, in Unlimited Intimacy, Dean claims that barebacking is worthy of scholarly attention as a subcultural practice due to the ways in which, as a form of transgressive biosociality, it catalyzes new structures of kinship and non-normative queer identification through the sharing of HIV. So basically, again, people who want to actively chase and attain these diseases have a new way of bonding with each other. Great. That didn't require that much to say. It's basically just people who want the same thing can bond over wanting the same thing. Well done. Congratulations. That's fucking great. As we have seen, however, Hart complicated that narrative of biosociality and kinship, so much that, in a more recent article, Dean has had to readjust his earlier views of barebacking to what he sees as the mediated intimacies of sex recaptured by the pharmacological apparatus of contemporary biopolitics. Still, the biopolitics of biochemical self-management is also what allows for the pharmaceutically mediated utopia that is viral loads, making the pornographic text a productive source to rethink not only gay male subjectivities, but also community formations in the time of Hart. Okay. So basically, gay people who wanted to catch this disease because that's their particular fetish had a way of bonding over their particular fetish by having the disease and being able to contract the disease and share the disease. The fact that people can now treat the disease has changed how they foresee it. Hopefully they will explain why. Probably because it allows them to indulge in their fetish without it killing them, presumably. Understanding community in terms of attributes that are recognised as shared by members of a group is a long-established position in the social sciences. Trace back to the likes of Victor Turner, blah 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 blah, yeah okay, this position sees community being triggered by recognition of the traits, attributes in the membership holds in common and therefore allow members to overcome their individual differences. Yes, okay, this is true. The problem when it comes to forms of community predicated on sharing HIV is that heart regimes that make fantasies like viral load possible also prevent the fantasy of HIV transmission from becoming an actual reality. Heart makes positive bodies uninfectious and negative bodies uninfectable. It operates as a chemical barrier to the sharing of HIV. Basically what we just said, that it allows people to indulge in this fetish without it killing them, the problem being that part of the fetish is killing themselves and killing other people. Like, you think I'm overstating it by saying the fetish is killing themselves and killing other people. No, you can actually find instances where people will actively state that they want the knowledge that they are going to harm other people with this. Nonetheless, as the reading of Viral Loads undertaken highlights, there is still a strong sense of intimacy, complicity, and care among the performers. The ways in which Tops ask Bottoms whether they are enjoying it, how Tops are dedicated to making Blue Bailey's wishes a reality, the giggles, the smiles, the laughter, and the passionate kissing, these all hint at the fact that, despite the ways in which Hart may function as part of the wider neoliberal atomization of the society, it still creates conditions of possibility for new forms. Okay. Right, I get it now. Okay, this has just clicked. Okay, the problem that they've got with the reason that they keep hacking on about the neoliberal paradigm, part of this, is that they see that as getting in the way of people basically making friends with people that want the same thing as them. That seems to be why they keep harping on about the neoliberal part of this. So basically, the fact that there are treatments available for things like HIV and the fact that people can become immune to it, in essence, because of these things, stops people from truly partaking in the sharing and spreading of these diseases, and this person thinks that this might be a problem. Because it means that although basically they identify themselves as bug chasers, they can never acquire the attribute, which is having HIV, that would properly give them that label, and that thus neoliberalism is to blame because, well, of course it is, because as we know, progressives hate neoliberalism. Because it allows markets to thrive in which people can get drugs which stop them from fucking dying. There you go, you got it right in chat there. Allowing people to survive AIDS is a neoliberal plot to stop fags from bonding. Yeah, that's basically what this is saying. It's fucking absurd. In his study of community, Roberto traces the etymology of communitas back to munus, a Latin word position between duty and gift. Oh, here we go. Rather than the emerging out of the shared economy, Esperanto claims that the communitas is in fact about gifting unconditionally. Here we go, he writes a pledge, a tribute, and one plays in an obligatory form. His line of thinking resonates with this person's work on the nature of the commons, in which the political theorist argues that the commons must not be understood as goods or resources held in common. Instead, they must be regarded as a dynamic system of social relations, a commoning or a doing in common that carries existing and new social relations into collective future. Here we go. This is how they're gonna get in the gift, because community, the origin of part of the word from community means giving people things, and neoliberalism is stopping people from giving and receiving the aids, which means that they're not a community. Neoliberalism is stopping gay people from being friends and having things in common. My God, I can't believe that this is where this is going, but this is where this is going. This is where this is going. This is fucking absurd. To go back to viral loads, I would like to argue that in the context of Heart, the communities enacted on screen are similarly not predicated on something concrete being held in common by the men we see fucking and being fucked. They are instead enacted in the relentless giving and receiving of foreign matter made possible through the radical openness and porosity of the bodies. Viral loads shows us breeding as commoning, as in communitying. When they say the commoning, that's what they want to try and put there. What such a perspective allows is a better grasp of Blue Bailey's incessant pursuit of load after load, only to then pass them away into the mouths of others. In viral loads, no load is held in place, and as such, no load is held in common. Instead, what we see is a community coming together, even if for only a few hours, through relentless acts of giving and exchanging, through an incessant eroticization and actualization of the porous potential of the body, and blah 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 blah. Okay. Basically, because people are having an orgy, because they all want to be having an orgy, that makes them a community of people having an orgy. Great. Thanks, science. Sure, wish I fucking had some academic paper to tell me that when a bunch of people are doing things together, that makes them a bunch of people doing things together. Wow, amazing. I'm glad we've cleared that one up. The final part of this god-awful paper, Toxic Becomings. Rather than having their subjectivity depend on a clear separation of self and others, the bodies we see depicted in viral loads suggest themselves as perverse realities. They are porous, penetrable, multiple, and self-constituted in their openness to strangers and operating their boundaries not as closed borders, but as interfaces. They veer away from modern understandings of the who-man as a discrete self-enclosed unit. That is, even if the bodies we see in viral loads are made possible thanks to Heart, even if the biopolitics of the latter still produce self-administered subjects as sovereign, that sovereignty also creates the condition of possibilities for bodies to fashion themselves differently within the current biopolitical regime as radically impure queer multitudes. Good God. Do we even have to continue with this shit? We've already established what this person is saying. They're just basically repeating themselves now. We know basically their entire complaint is neoliberalism allows a market to exist where AIDS can be treated and thus gay fags can't actually give and get HIV off of each other, therefore they stop being a community or some nonsense like that. That's it. That's basically what they're saying, and now they're just sort of repeating themselves. Oh, isn't it so bad that the people with the self-contained units and they can't actually share the things that they want to share? Because look at the market and how evil it is. Organised around a coming together that is also a coming inside, the barebacking communities depicted in viral loads operate a displacement of the self. In them, the self becomes multiple. No, it doesn't. In doing so, their libidinal excesses push bodies towards an inhuman mode of relatedness. While they certainly embrace and stress some aspects of normative masculinity, they no longer posit masculinity itself as either impermeable or immutable. Instead, the masculine embodiments we see enacted in viral loads are toxic. Not necessarily toxic in the sense of oppressiveness to others, but toxic in and for themselves. That is, through opening themselves to what is foreign, both their masculinity and their human becoming self-polluting. or their humanity becomes self-polluting. They themselves become matter out of place, to use... No, that's fucking absurd. Again, it's basically just people give and get HIV, and sometimes they do it willingly. And that this is actually a toxic thing. Yes, it is. Because the HIV/AIDS virus will fucking kill you. But the fact that it can't kill you now stops you from becoming friends with people. Because reasons, I guess. In that context, their community ethics is no longer dependent on what bodies may have in common with one another. Instead, community becomes a pledge one makes to others on the condition that they will remain foreign and strange, not in spite of it. As such, viral loads advances a masculinity that is already queer, polluted, and impure. At the same time, through the relentless flows of semen, foreign DNA, and antiretroviral drugs it depends on, the pornographic text presents us a view of contemporary embodied subjectivities as compromises in living together. It not only functions as a critique of the modern autonomous subject and his bodily integrity, but also constitutes a serious invitation for us to think the queer futures of our bodies, coded through interfacing of visual, semiotic, libidinal, and biochemical prosthetic flows. Good lord. Well, at least that's the end of that bullshit. Basically, this entire thing, as I've said, it's someone saying, woe betide the gays because they can't really catch the gay off of each other because neoliberalism is evil and allows them to protect themselves from getting the gay. And so being gay and trying to get the gay is no longer about having the gay in common, it is instead about pretending that you have the gay in common. Great. Well done. You're fucking awful. Someone wants me to watch something. What do you want me to watch, and is it gay as fuck? Ah, I can't highlight things properly. Yeah. Did it. Alright, let's see what incredibly gay shit this is gonna be. And is it gonna work? I just want to see the title of it. If it looks too damn gay... If it looks too damn gay, then we ain't gonna do it. Nope, that's not showing up for me at all. Even after I've added the watch and all that shit. There's nothing that's appearing there. Anyway, I'm not gonna do anything else anyway, because my voice is starting to go anyway. But yeah, that was that fucking paper in a nutshell. It's... The gays like to have the gay in common, and evil neoliberalism stops them from having the gay and getting the gay, therefore they have to pretend and pledge to having the gay rather than actually having the gay. Oh, isn't the world an evil and terrible place? God damn it. Well, on the plus side, I'm glad that we read it, because it got us, out the fucking way. It got this shit out the way. So that's great. That's wonderful. It's one less thing that we need to know. But yeah, that was a peer-reviewed, academically published thing. Has it been cited? I want to quickly check. Has it been cited by anyone? It hasn't been cited yet. But, yeah, it probably will be at some point. But yeah, that was just fucking awful. But yeah, that's modern academia for you. Feminism in a fucking nutshell. Progressive academia, feminist academia, whatever you want to call it. This is the bullshit that they're pushing. Aren't gay people oppressed because they can no longer be gay together, because they can't share the gay, because they're allowed to take drugs that protect them from the gay? It just... I definitely have cancer for reading that. I think I might also have AIDS as well. That's just fucking awful. God damn it. Well, we are a little bit more educated now, chat, than when we previously were. So now that we know all of the things, we can depart our separate ways and be a little bit more wise than we previously were. But remember, guys, feminist academia, that they are very robust. These are the most robust of robust feminist arguments that we're looking at here. And we really need to educate ourselves on feminism in academia rather than just wrecking feminists on the internet for fun. You know, because that's all we do. We just point and laugh and stop videos and say naughty words. We never address anything in academia, because, you know, academia is totally fine. It's the holiest of holies. It's this pure, unstoppable, amazing place where all of the really good ideas that you can't argue against come from. Because fucking reasons. Even though it produces shit like this. It's just awful. Telia Wiser, I lost IQ points because of this. Yeah, I also lost IQ points because of this. I'm going to go and watch a few dozen episodes of Rick and Morty and try and get my IQ back up there. God, I fucking hate that show. I tried watching one episode of it, I was like, what the ever-loving fuck is this shit that I'm watching? Might actually be worse than The Last Jedi. Possibly. Not entirely sure if it is, though. It's probably on about the same level of fucking awful. But anyway, I'm gonna go, chat. I have things to do, and food to eat, and cats to feed, and you all have probably something more important to do. Well, I think you have something more important to do. The fact that you've sat watching me read about the gay for 3 hours probably says otherwise. Maybe we should all consider what we're doing with our lives and change route onto something a little more productive. Yeah, we'll do that, I think. Anyway, I will see you at some point in the not-too-distant future, chat. Hopefully I will get back to doing useful things and making the videos and all that shit. We'll see, chat. We'll see. But I shall see you whenever I return. Fare thee well, chat, and have yourselves a merry Monday, Tuesday, what day is it? Yeah, have yourself a merry Tuesday, chat. Farewell.